Recording in progress.
Hello, and welcome to the June 3rd meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission. I see a lot of attendees are just logging in, so I think we can go ahead and take roll, and hopefully attendees will be able to keep logging in.
Chair Stanek.
Here.
Vice Chair Shu.
Here.
Commissioner Kumarapan.
Here.
Commissioner Tombe.
Here.
Commissioner Begor.
Here. Okay. Ceremonial matters and presentations. Do we have any? We do not. Okay. Let's move to our first item of business is the approval of the minutes. Are there any questions or comments about the minutes?
Yeah, I had just a small one under the segment that talks about the community funding grant policy. And thank you, Whitney, you did an amazing job capturing all the discussion. But just the very last part of that first paragraph, it says she recommended if we consider boosters to add a requirement to make it school specific rather than organization specific. The inverse, so making it organization specific and not school specific, because if we fund one school, then we have to fund them all. So that I just wanted to flip that to accurately represent the statement. But other than that, I'm good to go.
Okay. Do we have a motion on the minutes?
I also have a small amendment for the meeting minutes.
Okay.
So that's on page 2. They mentioned about it's about the satellite community garden. They said Commissioner Begor agreed that Jollyman Park already has a lot of activities. So I think that's what I mentioned, but they didn't include it in the meeting minutes. So maybe you can add. Commissioner Xu already mentioned there's a lot of activity in Jollyman Park about the Dola and the future all-inclusive playground, all these things. We don't think it's realistic to add more community garden there. Just this.
Okay. We have a motion.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes with the 2 friendly amendments. Or with the 2 friendly changes. Technically, they're not amendments. So with the 2 friendly changes.
I second it.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a vote.
Commissioner Begor.
Yes.
Commissioner Tombe.
Yep.
Commissioner Kumarapan.
Yes.
Vice Chair Shu.
Yes.
And Chair Stanek.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the agenda. Postponements. Do we have any postponements? No. Our next item on the agenda is oral communication. So what I want to do is remind everyone that oral communications is the part of the meeting reserved for persons wishing to address the Commission on any matter within our jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. So specifically, this is for items that are not the DOLA or the Blackberry Farm Golf Course. So I see some hands going up and some hands going down. So if your hand is up and you are hoping to speak about the DOLA or the Blackberry Farm Golf Course, please hold your comments until those items. Okay. And we have 2 hands. Right now we have 27 attendees in this meeting from the public, and I do anticipate that there will be a lot of public comment tonight. So in the interest of time, I'm going to ask that all participants limit their speaking time to 2 minutes. And I know that's hard, but I really appreciate your help in us getting through this full agenda, even though there's only a couple of big items on it. We know there's a lot of public comments, and we want to hear from everyone. So the only one who has their hand up now, and if there's anyone else that wants to speak during oral communications, please put your hands up now. Okay, I see one, and that is Nori, and she or he will be the only one for oral communications. Nori?
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. I don't know 2 minutes is enough to talk. I try to do 3 minutes. Olenka, founder of Magical Bridge Foundation, and I think Memorial Park is the best location to build Magical Bridge all-inclusive playground. Memorial Park is the biggest park in center of the Cupertino, next Quinlan Community Center, Sports Center, tennis court, baseball field, senior center, and big green fields. Large senior apartment and memorial care unit will be built at the Westport next to Memorial Park. Memorial Park is easy to access from Stevens Creek of 85. Magical Bridge Playground brings visitors from other cities, which is good for small businesses, especially after many stores and restaurants are closed. However, Jodyman Park is a small neighborhood park and always almost empty except when soccer and baseball games are held. Based on the grant application for Jodyman Park Playground, city expect approximately 200 visitors per weekday and 800 over weekend. Would you really think so many visitors to Jodyman Park Playground? 5.5 million should worth to spend for all-inclusive playground is Memorial Park. Pond is away from Stevens Creek so that it is quiet. In my opinion, I believe that children with special needs also enjoy interaction with other children. And also, I believe that other children can learn compassion, empathy, and respect from young age. There is no physical cognitive barrier among children
20 seconds.
Magical Bridge Playground. 4.65 improving Memorial Park is work plan CIP. I hope city can work with Magical Bridge Foundation build safe magical playground for all ability, all children and all aging population after remove the water irrigation system.
Nori?
Hazards
Thank
from
you, Nori.
it's a 3 minutes. Please let me another 30
No,
seconds.
I'm sorry, Nori. We have a very, very large attendee list tonight. And so to be fair to everyone, I appreciate your speaking, and I'm sorry, but that tonight is just a very full agenda. And so I do want to let everyone know, I apologize that I did not mention it earlier, that as going through the 2 minutes, I've asked our director to let you know when there's only 20 seconds to go, so you do have that, that notice ahead of time. So that is our oral communications for tonight. Thank you very much. Written communications. Do we have any written communications that were not included in the packet?
All written communications were included and will be published prior or following the meeting.
Okay. Were there any other emails? Whitney, is now when you need me to ask you, you want me to ask you at the communication time, public input for each item?
So
Okay.
none for oral communications.
Okay. Let's go on to old business. Item number 2 on the agenda. The subject is the update on the extension of the dog off-leash area trial at Jollyman Park. And I know there's a lot of our attendees who have never participated in a meeting, and I welcome you all. And just so you understand the process, our director will give an update on the item. The commissioners will have an opportunity to ask questions, and at that time, we will close those questions, and I will open the discussion up for public comment. Each person will be given 2 minutes to comment, and our director will let you know when you have 20 seconds left. I would like all hands to be raised. If you wish to comment, please raise your hand in the chat room, and please make sure that all the hands are raised on this item by the time the director is completed with her comments. Okay, Director McGreeny.
Great. Good evening, everybody. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Joanne McGreeny, and I am the Director of Parks and Recreation, celebrating my first year this week. I've made it a whole year, the whole time, unfortunately, during COVID, but glad to see that we're coming out of that. So I'm going to share my screen here to provide the presentation. Can everybody see that? We're all good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So tonight I'm here to update you all on the extension of the dog off-leash area trial at Jollyman Park. So we're going to go through a couple of items, just update you on the background, current field use, considerations, the extension, collecting feedback, next steps, and the recommended action. So in 2019, the dog off-leash area, referred to as the DOLA, was a city work program item that began in fiscal year 2019-2020, and it resulted in the DOLA trial at Jollyman Park. This was recommended by Parks and Recreation Commission at their September 5th, 2019 meeting. The trial was initially scheduled through the spring and summer months, during which time the mixed-use field would be permitted to youth baseball and soccer groups. Due to COVID-19 impacts, the lack of data available regarding the coexistence of youth sports organizations and the DOLA trial, this item was extended to fiscal year 2021 city work program. In response to the county's shelter-in-place order and COVID-19, the trial was temporarily suspended from March 17th, 2020. The DOLA then reopened on June 5th, 2020 in accordance with state and Santa Clara County guidelines. At that time, youth sports were still prohibited by the state. Without sufficient data to assess how well youth sports and the DOLA were able to coexist, the Parks and Recreation Commission provided their support at the July 2nd, 2020 meeting to extend the DOLA trial to June 30th of 2021, or until sufficient data could be collected. Additionally, the commission supported updating the DOLA trial hours to be 1 hour before and 1 hour after sunset. Following the extension, use of the Jollyman baseball and soccer field was not permitted during fall of 2020. A permit was approved for Cupertino Little League to use the field beginning April 20th of 2021. They began with 2 practices per week. As of May 19th, their current usage is 3 practices per week. This represents less than half of a normal season. The new athletic field use policy was adopted by City Council on May 4th and will go into effect on July the 1st. The new policy changes the field permitting process to an hourly fee and may impact field use requested at Jollyman, as sports groups are expected to only reserve the space that they require. The impact of the new policy on reservations will not be apparent until spring 2022. Furthermore, the Santa Clara County mandatory directives during COVID-19 required telework for most city employees and prevented staff from observing the DOLA. With these considerations, the Jollyman trial should be extended to June 30, 2022 in order for the city to have sufficient data to determine if Jollyman Park is a suitable location for a DOLA. Extending the trial is not expected to negatively impact the existing pilot, which would continue during this time and maintain the hours of 1 hour before and 1 hour after sunset. This extension would allow staff to observe how the DOLA interacts with sports groups. Once COVID restrictions ease, the activities are able to resume closer to their normal capacity. Additionally, impacts will be monitored regarding the updated field use policy. Staff will use the extension to collect feedback from the community, monitoring activity at the Jollyman DOLA, and will continue to maintain and observe an incident log. This data is collected from various entities, including the city's 311 application, code enforcement, San Jose Animal Control, and the Sheriff's Office to adequately determine the feasibility of a Jollyman dog off-leash area. There are currently 11 incidents logged to date. The next steps would include updating the city's DOLA website with the latest information and revising signage at Jollyman Park to note the extended date for the trial. Cost to revise the signage would total $200 to be allotted from existing funds. So again, this item is just to receive an update on the extension of dog off-leash trial at Jollyman Park and provide any input. And I'm going to end the slideshow and stop my screen share really quick. I'd just like to make a few other comments before I turn it over to the commission. I think that there may have been a miscommunication about when I announced the DOLA was coming to this meeting at our last meeting. I didn't articulate what about the DOLA, and I think people maybe didn't understand what we were going to be talking about. And so for that, I completely take responsibility and I apologize. I'm happy to know that the people that have been, out there with the DOLA are very happy with the way that things are going. And I think that's good news. But I would like to also just reiterate, I started here during COVID and I don't know what a normal day at Jollyman Park really looks like. Use of the park, even with the use of the teams that are going out there on a limited basis due to COVID, really doesn't give us the information we're looking for in order to make a recommendation. And I just want everybody to know we're really trying to do what's best for all involved, the community members that use the park, the sports groups, as well as the people that utilize the DOLA in making a sound recommendation so that when it is permanent, we can go forward and have as few problems and conflicts as possible. And so that's the data that we're trying to gather in order to provide a recommendation. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, commissioners, please raise your hand through the Zoom if you would like to, if you have any questions. Commissioner Tombe.
Hey, so I had a couple of questions, but first is clarifying, is today's agenda item an update or is it a ask for a recommendation to City Council?
So no, it's just to provide you an update that staff are going to extend the trial. We will not be moving forward with a recommendation because we don't have one at this time.
Okay. And then the additional question I have, which I know I only sent to you today, but I wanted to give you an update too, or a heads up on that too. But I was curious in terms of what, if this is, it was my understanding when we had initially extended the Jollyman Park process that this would be coming back to the commission for approval on the next stages of this process. So since that's not what this agenda item is doing, I wanted to understand, one, what specific types of data you're looking to collect. Two, what is the exact process that you are looking for, or that we are looking at to actually, make this either approve or not approve, but actually get to the point where we can make that decision? Like, what are okay, these are the 5 steps, or these are the 6 steps that we need to get this either approved or say, hey, we're not doing this anymore.
Sure, I appreciate you sending me an email, by the way. I'm going to try and move through the questions that you posed. So the data that we're looking for is obviously the interaction of the sports groups with the DOLA group, right? And to see if there is, in fact, any kind of concerns that come up. We would reach out to those groups. We would observe as a neutral party at the actual park to see how things are going and not just ask one specific person associated with the group their opinion. So we would go out there and make observations. We would obviously take into consideration any kind of feedback or input or complaint or incident. And so we would analyze kind of all of that data and we would come back and make a recommendation. And I think what we're looking for is a sound recommendation that allows the DOLA to operate at a time that is most appropriate for both them and the sports groups. And so I think that the thing that we're most interested in is to see now that with the field use policy changing and people reserving by the hour, how that may or may not impact the DOLA. So that specific information as well.
Okay, and have we reached out to the groups? Have we already been in touch with them, or has that not happened yet?
So we have, and again, we're updating them right now about the new field use policy and how it will be implemented in July when it becomes effective. And so again, we may see less use out at the fields. We maybe see more use. I don't know what to really anticipate. And so I think that having that information is valid, for moving forward. Because
sorry, I didn't mean in terms of the athletic field use policy. I just meant in terms of, they've been on the field for a while now. So have we talked to them about their experience thus far? Are they in the loop on this process right now?
So my understanding is that there has not been any overlap with the field and the current usage out at the Dola, so that the Little League team actually vacates the field prior to the 1 hour before sunset. So there hasn't been any data to really analyze or interaction to analyze.
And then that second component.
Yep, absolutely. So staff will bring this back with a recommendation and all the statistical information for you to consider to make a recommendation to council. And then we will bring it to council to see, whether or not they want to proceed. It would be an ordinance. It would be an update to the Muni Code. And so that would be involved as well.
And what does that take?
I guess, what do you exactly mean by what does that take?
So in terms of the change in the ordinance, so this is just an update meeting, but, suppose the data, whatever's necessary to collect is collected, commission either approves or does not approve the extension, then it goes, if it is approved, then it goes to city council. If the city council, then the city council decides to approve or deny. If they decide to approve, I know there's a lot of ifs in here, but if they decide to approve it and we have to make a change to the ordinance, is it as simple as, okay, they've approved it, that is changed, or what are the steps on the ordinance side?
Yeah, the ordinance process is I'm not super familiar with, but whenever implementing a new ordinance, there's 2 readings. There's a first reading and a second reading. And I would hope that staff would be prepared with a proposed ordinance at the time we have brought it for your consideration. We can make the amendments based on your recommendation and then proceed. And then hopefully at the time of presenting the recommendation, it could also be considered the first reading. There would need to be a second reading before the ordinance is enacted.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kumarappan.
Great. Got 2 questions. One, I think to Director. It says that the field use policy will be effective from July 1st, 2021, correct? So, and we will start collecting feedback from July until when? Like it's 3 months, 6 months? How long we expected to collect feedback once the field use policy is implemented from July or July 1st?
So my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, is that a lot of sports organizations don't necessarily permit over the summer, and that they usually are fall and spring. And so that is the timeline that we're looking at.
Which is like three months from now, Director Giovanni? Will take 3 months?
I think we would anticipate Little League coming back in late August, early September, somewhere around there.
Okay. The second question, again, you may not have a direct answer now because until you get the feedback, but I'll just put it on the record. So if based on the feedback, the impact analysis, whatever we do, it will be considered for both programs, right? What I mean is, if you get some feedback, is it expected that it will go on to alter the DOLA program, or it will alter the field usage policy itself, even though it has been approved on 4th to be rolled out? Do you expect one impacting the other, or you plan to take the feedback, but both the programs are running, we will take a collective decision? Is it the way you plan to bring back to the commission? I'm trying to find out what would be coming back as a feedback after the field usage policy is implemented.
I mean, I would assume that based on field use, the timing associated with the use of the DOLA could be affected.
Okay, the impact would be on the timing of the DOLA.
Correct.
Okay. The other question is that I see that you said there are 11 incidents reported on it. Is it during this time, like of this COVID situation? I said currently there are 11 incidents logged, right? That's what it meant. What is the duration of these 11 incidents? Last 1 year or recently?
I'll have to look that up. I think staff will help me with that answer, and I should have it by the time we're done with all the commissioners asking questions.
It's
Okay.
included in the attachments as well.
But it's already in the attachment on the 11.
Are the dates on there?
Maybe. If that is the case, it's my fault. I will take a look at it. So no more homework for you. But
I couldn't remember if it was something we provided or something I just saw, so my apologies. Thanks, Whitney.
Okay, that's all I got. So thank you.
Okay, other commissioners, do you have any questions at this time? You can. Okay, I don't see either Commissioner Shu or Commissioner Begor with questions. I had a question. So you said Little League comes back in August, September.
Yes. So I think that they do participate on a limited basis in the fall. Their real season is in the spring.
Okay, so it may be that they may not even reserve this field in the fall.
They may not, and we may have other groups that want to get that field because the policy is changing. I really don't know what to anticipate at this time. Because we usually do it by blanket permit. So if Cupertino Little League gets that field, they're the only group that utilizes that field. It will be changing because more groups can reserve the same field because it's by time slot, if that makes any sense. So Cupertino Little League could do 3:30 to 5:30, and then another group or organization could come in and do 5:30 to 7:30, or maybe everybody wants to be out at Wilson Park. I'm not sure how it might shake out.
Yeah, so I guess some of that, well, I won't make comments. That I just wanted to ask the question. So if there isn't, if there are people who are reserving the field, how many observations do you feel you need to get to have enough sufficient data? So what triggers you to say, okay, we have sufficient data?
I think that being able to be out there and actually see the interactions of both groups utilizing the field at the same time is most useful. And again, we have yet to see that at all during COVID. I guess I don't know if I would really say there's a number of times, but I guess, you know, a couple of months of information, and whether that be, you know, the regular schedule, if it's 3 days a week or 4 days a week, a couple of months of information, I think would be the most valid statistical sound information to go off of.
Okay, so if they're asking for times that don't overlap, how do we come to a conclusion about that?
So I think what might, and again, this is why we want to know how our field use policy really gets implemented. Our hope is that we are able to let everyone know in the public when the field is being used. And so maybe when the field is not being reserved, it can be available for DOLA hours. So I think that's why we want to kind of understand the inner workings of how this information is going to be disseminated and how we're going to get it to the public and how that might interact with the use of the DOLA and the hours that are available to it.
And so if the hours were to be modified, even after we do all of this, if there is a request to modify hours, that's something that can be handled operationally, I believe.
Correct. So a lot of the research that we've done shows that most fields that are considered for DOLA use are usually in the morning, because there are not usually teams that are utilizing the fields in the morning during the weekdays. And so there are some interesting things that happen at different fields, and there are obviously parks that operate differently that don't have field use. But a lot of them have stipulations like no use in the summer, or no use on the weekends, or no use in the evenings. So and it's across the board. There's different timing associated to it.
Okay. Yeah, I think, this timing, this was all a resident-driven initiative. So, the hours were what the residents were looking for, and that's why we've done it in the trial this way. So, commissioners, do you have any other questions for the director at this time? If not, then...
Sorry, I have one more.
Okay.
So I know just FYI, Commissioner Kamarbun, it's going to be on page 55 and 56, what you're looking for. So I noted that there were a couple of times in 2021 that we went out and were like, okay, these are, the issues, or this is like the volume of folks. The Cupertino Little League, I believe they have their T-ball and their Challenger Little League division that go through, like, they're doing something now. Have we had any issues with that? I know that the timings are different, but have we had any issues?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that use is usually on Sundays or the weekends, and so I think it's in the day, so I don't think it conflicts with the hour before or after sunset. But
okay, great.
Yeah, I don't know of any.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And at this time, we're going to go to public comment. And I see 11 hands, and I'm going to read the names right now so that if there's someone who thinks they have their hand raised and it's not there, hopefully they can figure out how to get that done. But these are the 11 that I'm expecting to call on. And just to keep the meeting moving, after I read these names, and we're not going to be adding additional names. Oh, no. I just lost my Zoom.
We can still hear you, Chair.
Okay, good.
But now we have 14 folks on the line.
Okay, that's why I logged in with my phone, so at least I can talk. So I guess at this point I would like to just ask Vice Chair Shu to be calling out the names. I do know that there are a couple of them, so the first one on the list was Luis Sadati, and I had received a request, I believe, that an additional, that there's at least one person who is going to yield their time to her. So if you could allow her to speak now, and then if that's right, then she is, I believe, representing the leadership of the group, and that's why she also has her hand up first. So let's go there, and I'm coming back.
Just went to mute.
Okay. Can you hear me? I came back muted. Okay, you're off the hook, Vice Chair Shu. So, right now I don't see Luis Sadati.
She's there. There are 14 people, and Luis is the first one.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The first one I can see is Ruchika. So let me read the name. The first one that I see now. So can you see Sadaki?
Yes.
Okay, and then after that, I saw Samir.
No.
Maybe Vice Chair Shu can read them then, or any of us can.
So,
because there seems to be
let me read the
people.
other names, and these are the people who we are going to be allowed to speak: Ruchika, Deepa, Mahendreka, and Kita Goyal, Devashish Rao, Ruchika Varanasi, Tony Alexander, Helen Sharkey, Mahadeva, Ariva Khan, I apologize, ajitchamraj, there's Luis Sadati. Somehow she got reordered. Anj Chopra, Rick Grebe, Deepa, Charles Zhang, and that's the last one. So I'm going to go to Louise. And
Thank you.
okay, and are you speaking for just yourself, or is there someone else who has
Perfect.
yielded their time to you?
Yes, there, Aparna, Aparna, has yielded her time to me. And there's also Tony, who plans to yield his time to me.
Okay, so I don't see Aparna. So I'm going to ask you to limit your time to 4 minutes.
She might show up as Rishika.
Might show up as what?
Ruchika? Yes.
Okay, I do see Ruchika.
But that's her mom. Aparna is her mom. Rusika is still talking. They have one computer, so they're using the same computer.
Okay.
You received an email from her mom, AP.
Okay, so I'd like you to limit your comments to 4 minutes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And our director will let you know when there are 20 seconds left.
Would there be a running clock for me?
There is one that I can see. I don't know with the presentation if you can see it.
Okay, I don't see it. So would somebody be kind enough to call off the minutes for me as I go?
I'll absolutely let you know. 3, 2, and 1.
Thank you. Okay, so the clock starts now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Louise Sadati. I represent 160 of the Dola users and that sign into WhatsApp, but there's obviously even more Dola users than that. And I'd like to address the points that the director brought up. And I'm so happy to be able to work with you, Director Joanne. I'm sorry that you weren't able to respond to my email in time for us to meet before this meeting. Our group has been working with the different directors prior to the present director since 2017. And so we as a group have been an ongoing effort since 2017. So in response to the staff report and what Director Joanza said, there is only one Little League team that uses Jollyman Park. It's a one mixed-use athletic field. Wilson Park is the preferred park with 3 athletic fields, 3 full athletic fields for most of the other Little League teams prefer. So there's only one Little League that uses the Jollyman 2 times a week, and this has been the pattern for years. So if it all hinges on the Little League, the time does not overlap. The Little League ends at 6:30. Our Dola hours are 1 hour before, 1 hour sunset. So near the April to June time, the sunset's at 8:30. The Dola starts at 7:30. Second, the city has staff maintaining the fields throughout COVID. The Dola was outdoors, the public was safe and allowed to use it. The city's position that the city field staff or staff could not observe the Dola is hard to understand in light of this. The whole country was under COVID restrictions, but yet outdoor workers, people were able to go outdoors. It was safer to go outdoors to complete their work. Secondly, starting in July 1st, 2021, there will be an hourly fee per person policy instead of the prior policy. The report says that they expect that people will be more cautious, that they will only reserve the space they require. Therefore, it's only reasonable that there will be more cautious reservations and use of the fields. And again, less reservations, and even now the Little League doesn't overlap and is
1 minute.
only 2 days a week. So, so I would like to say that we represent 160 DOLA users. We have worked with the city cooperatively. With only a few days notification of important changes, we spoke a few days ago at the City Council, now at the Parks and Rec, and we are growing. Our leadership has grown. The number of leaders, our experience and energy has grown since 2017. We will continue to show up at commission meetings, council meetings, and we will expand our message to other venues in the community. We are gaining in frequency. We will continue to show and make our voice be heard. Extend the Jollyman trial, DOLA trial. Jollyman DOLA is successful. You have the data for that. Jollyman DOLA should be made permanent as soon as possible. We will work with the city to provide any data that you need. But please don't let this one team Little League twice a week pattern that doesn't even overlap with our DOLA.
Sorry, I forgot to let you know about 20 seconds. Your time is up. My apologies.
Don't let it stop us.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ruchika. You can unmute yourself. There you go.
Hi. My name is Ruchika Varanasi and I am in 6th grade. I have a 10-month-old black lab named Story who is very rambunctious but we love very dearly. She loves to play more than eating even. And boy, do labs love food. Under-exercised dogs will have pent-up energy, which can lead to destruction. We got Story during the pandemic and it was challenging to find playmates for her. My mom used to take her to faraway paid socials that were timed and indoors. They did not give her much room to run around and play until we came to know about Jollyman DOLA. DOLA allows dogs to have interaction with other dogs and also playtime, which can be beneficial in 2 ways. The first way is by allowing the dog to get out all their energy by playing with other dogs. The second way is socialization, which is a key part of dog growth and development. Socialization with other dogs is very important, and DOLA allows that because there are dogs of all sizes, shapes, and breeds. Story gets to interact with small dogs and big dogs and learn how to play with them properly. In addition, it was the only time during the pandemic that I was able to meet my friends who came with their dogs, as it was safe to do so outside with masks and social distancing. DOLA provided a safe environment for Story and me to meet with and play with our friends, creating a nice supportive family outside our own family. In a terrible year when everything was disrupted. I sincerely hope that DOLA will be added back to the agenda and made permanent as soon as possible, as well as the trial being extended, because DOLA is very successful. I hope to grow up in a community where dogs and their owners are given consideration in the society, because they are such an important part of our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruchika. Our next speaker is Deepa Mahendrekar.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, all right. Respected commissioners, I should say my favorite set of commissioners, I'm here a lot, and wonderful director, Joanne, and the administrative staff. I'm an original advocate and supporter of Jollyman DOLA. A small handful set of families started this movement, I should say, in December 2017. And we got overwhelming support from the neighborhood. We went and petitioned, we petitioned online, we petitioned on paper. We got over 1,000 signatures. We were pretty successful in getting that kind of support. Our ask was really very simple. One trial in one park, 2 hours a day. And if the trial is successful, let's come back to the table and make it permanent. The definition of success was, hey, obviously we need to see the interaction between all the games and everything, but also no bad incidents with dogs like, biting humans and all that such. There will always be infractions, small infractions and incidents, but not like, big incidents. I do want to address in my 2 minutes one quick comment, because I am probably one common factor who has worked through 3 directors and 2 city managers to get this trial going. When we initially thought of Dola hours, the thought of not overlapping with Little League games was deliberately put into it. 1 hour before sunset, 1 hour after sunset during summertime and other times typically did not clash with the playing hours of the Little League. So it's going to be a little hard to actually collect data of co-playing as such, because it was deliberately built into the program. So just want to throw that data out there for everybody to consider. And having said that, yes, let's go through the paces that we need to. I just kind of wanted to make sure people understand the context of that. Today we have another
Thank you, Deepa. Deepa, your time has expired. Thank you.
All right.
Our next speaker is Vashisht Rao.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Vashisht. I'm a longtime resident of Cupertino City, and I've spoken at multiple of these hearings. And as Deepa rightly put it, we have started this event, this movement almost 3 years back, and we are still looking at trials. I'm a regular user of the Dola, and it's been a huge success. And if you guys ever come out to the park, you should see the impact on the community that this has brought in. A lot of people, a lot of dogs, so everyone is benefiting out there. So I did read the staff report saying that more data is needed, and there's a 1-year extension. I'm really happy for that. But I would like to urge the director and the city staff, if they can expedite the process. We have been very patient through all this, and that's my only appeal. Being somebody who's using the park and talking to other people who use it regularly, it's been a huge success and with very less incidents. So I really thank you for your support all this time, and I would like to request to make the Dola permanent as soon as possible. And I agree, I mean, yeah, you guys need more data, sure, but if you can expedite that, that'll be really great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ruchika Varanasi.
Yeah, hi. I had yielded my time to Louise.
Oh, okay, super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Tony Alexander.
Good evening, Commissioner Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for your time. I'd like to make a few points. First of all, we're very disappointed that this is not a meeting to actually create permanency for Dola. There has been a lot of observation over a few years now, and I get the feeling, and I don't want to be too personal here, but COVID's being used as an excuse. It's the excuse out there for price rises and everything else. However, the Santa Clara County restrictions did not stop city staff if they desired to go out and make observations anywhere in the city. That is proved with the code enforcement who have been out at varying times, and I don't understand why it was decided this couldn't be observed. Secondly, the agreement with Little League originally was always 1 hour before, 1 hour after. However, it would always be at least 20 minutes after any Little League practice or game finished. So there'd be time for children to be picked up, snacks to be eaten, and there would be absolutely no conflict. Throughout COVID, the park has been more heavily used. There's also the observations of the city workers who are out there on a constant basis. They take photographs and everything else. And I'd strongly encourage the commission to speak with all of those parties involved to get data so that we can move this forward quickly. The other thing is Little League does not do anything other than in the spring. So there will be no opportunity until next year. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Thank you for being observant of the time as well. Our next speaker on my list is Helen Sharkey. Welcome, Helen.
Oh, hi. My name is Helen Chen, and I live in the city of Cupertino for over 20 years, but I am the first-time dog owner. And so I'm kind of new to Dola. However, we have been to the Dola for over 2 months. It's the best place to go for both me and my pup. And now we have to go there every day. And I just want to say how much we love it. And I'm talking to show our support to make it permanent. And for my personal experience in ever since I have my puppy, and more than half of the dog owners are kind of new. Everyone's getting a puppy in the past 1 year. More than half of the dog owners are new. So I assume we have a lot more dogs in the past 1 year. And in our community, I feel like we got to have at least one official dog off leash area. And yeah. And also, I want to say I have also been to some other dog parks, but Jollyman Dola area is the best. It's absolutely the best. All the dog owners are friendly. We help each other, and all the pups are just behave at their best. So to me, it's just the best place to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Our next speaker is Mahadevan. Welcome, Mahadevan.
Hi, my name is Mahadevan and I have a dog named Mako. Jollyman Park Dola group really helped my dog get all his energy out. You see, my dog is a border collie and can run over 20 miles each day. He has tons of energy. This group has a lot of dogs that can tire him out. If I do not bring him to Jollyman Park, he will go crazy and run around the house. I really hope we can make Dola permanent because I really do not want to deal with the crazy border collie running around the house. Another thing is Mako is a puppy and needs to socialize with other dogs. Dola has enough dogs that can help him run around and play. Mako used to be really shy of dogs, but after I went to Dola for a month, he's not timid anymore. If a dog comes up to him, he won't try to back away. I really hope the city will make Dola permanent. Because not only did my puppy got to socialize and grow with his dog friends, I hope any puppy can come to Dola without any problem, so every single puppy can socialize with other dogs and grow. I'm done.
Thank you. That was excellent. You brought smiles to a number of the commission's faces. That's all I can say there. Our next speaker is Ajit.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Ajitchamraj, and I'm the incoming student body president in Monte Vista High School, and I've formerly been class president for a couple of years, so I feel inclined to be a representative voice for the students of the city. I can unequivocally say that dogs at Jollyman are huge for students as a stress reliever and for mental health. Interactions with dogs reduce stress, anxiety, depression, and ease loneliness. It's no secret that mental health in this city is a colossal issue for students. Schools here are stressful and competitive, feelings of loneliness run rampant. It's a fact that the dog park area of Jollyman has been an integral part of life for many students to distress, including myself. Even kids who don't have dogs have found an immense sense of delight just hanging out with all those dogs. Keeping dogs cooped up in their house helps nobody, not the people of the city, and from the other perspective, it definitely does not help the dogs. Dogs are social creatures, so socialization is extremely important for them. Even with my own dog, I've seen how restless and sad she gets when she's not able to see her friends. I ask that you extend the trial past June 30th and make Dola permanent as soon as possible. We will work with the city to provide necessary data. Dola has been extremely successful, so naturally, this is the only logical step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajit. And I would like to say thank you to the students that are participating here tonight. Our next speaker is Deepa. I'm not sure if this is the same, this is a different person in the household, or because we already had Deepa speak. Deepa, are you there? Can you unmute? Maybe she just had a second. She just had a second line in. So we'll move on to Ansh Chopra.
Okay, hello, my name is Ansh and I'm 9 years old and I'll also be speaking for Dola. Dola is one more good thing about Jollyman Park in Cupertino. I want you all to imagine if you were thinking about moving to Cupertino. Hearing that there is a place in one of the parks where dogs are off leash and you can play with them will surely convince you even more to move to the Cupertino. And for the people that already live in Cupertino, hearing that there's a dog off leash area in the park will make most people come. Why do we want people to come? It's because we want our community to be awesome, and people coming will make Cupertino even more awesome. Dola is making people and dogs socialize. Did you know that dogs are less likely to be aggressive off leash when they're on a leash than when they're on a leash? Sure, there is play fighting, but nobody ever gets hurt in those play fights. Dogs need to socialize, and Dola is awesome for that. Making Dola permanent is better for the community and for the dogs. Also, there are a lot of dogs in Cupertino, and you probably have an owner of a dog on your street, so Dola helps them too. Now, Dola right now is at 20% of their potential. Why, you may ask? Well, most of the dog owners do not know Dola even exists, and making Dola permanent will make more people become aware. And so the Dola community will grow even more and people will come. And with that, more people will come. And that will make Cupertino's Dola community even better. Please extend the trial or make Jollyman Dola permanent ASAP. We will also work with the city to provide any data you need. Dola is super successful, so please make it permanent or extend the trial. That is all for my speech. Hopefully that encourages you to make Dola permanent. And of course, thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ansh. Our next speaker is Charles Zhang.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. Hi, my name is Charles Dan. I live in 5 minutes walk distance away from Jollyman Park. My two kids grew up playing in the playground of Jollyman Park. We have a Shepherdor dog named Echo since last August. So Echo is my family's first dog. So my daughter Catherine loved animals. She always wanted a pet dog for quite a long time. Since we didn't have any experience with a dog, we were reluctant to commit to a dog ownership. When she played at the Jollyman Park playground, she noticed there are some people and dogs gathered near the baseball field. She would go there and talk to the dog owners about different aspects of dog ownership. We found people there were very friendly and responsible and have a real sense of community, where people are helping and supporting each other. The dogs there are also very friendly and well behaved. She learned quite a lot about dogs that way. This experience helped us make a decision to have a pet dog, which I'm really happy with, since Echo is such a sweet dog, which brings joy to the family. Since Echo was 4 years old, we started bring her to the Jollyman Park Dola on a regular basis. Echo can socialize with her human and dog friend and enjoy some ball chasing. We really appreciate that Cupertino Park and Recreation have a Dola at Jollyman Park with good facilities. There's already a dog drinking fountain where Echo can drink some waters after high intensity cardio exercise, and the trash can and the bag station are very conveniently located. We are supporting Jollyman Park Dola to be permanent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charles. Our next speaker on my list is Ankita, but I thought Ankita was already spoke. Is that correct?
No, I'm not speaking. I didn't speak yet. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
you can.
Thank you for giving me a chance to talk. Good evening, all commissioners, chair, and directors. I have been going to Dola, or I was one of the first, group of people who started going to Joliman Park, and have spoken here and at City Council multiple times. And it was my first time public speaking at Park and Recreation, and I thought I refined a lot. But after listening to kids, I was like, okay, I need a lot of work prior to talking. So I'm being sarcastic because I've spoken here so many times, same points over and over again, that, we have been all, very happily playing with our dogs. And it's not only dogs, it's a zero cost to city where they don't even have to organize or put pamphlets or do marketing, nothing. People are coming on its own, and that's how you can realize that how important it is for the community, that people are wanting it, people are driving it. From 7 people we started Dola, and now we are 150 people, and I don't know how many, because so many times we see new dogs there. And here we're talking about data, I guess, like, and from last 2007, my dog was 1 year, and now he's 5 years old. So is it like really like that long to collect data and think about it? I think it's very successful. We have seen not only like you're talking about Little League, I see a lot of like, girls volleyball league team, a lot of soccer, adult soccer going on, little leagues all the time. So I don't know what type of more data we are looking for here, and really, really disappointed in city at this time, because we were thinking about getting it permanent. And here we are speaking again about like trials and data. So I would request, please, like we are supporting you. Help us, and we'll help you gather data. But we want this to be permanent as soon as possible. And it's not just us; it's for like whole community, whole Cupertino, for all people. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Rick Greaves. Rick's on an older version of Zoom, so I need to promote him to a panelist. Okay, Rick?
Hello there, sorry about that. Hi there, my name's Rick Reeves. I'm a part of the Cupertino community. I want to say thank you to everyone on the panel here, the council members and the directors for giving us time and space to talk about this, and a shout out to Whitney for organising the slides for us. If you don't mind clicking on the next one. Basically, what we're trying to go through here is to show you and pictures of cute dogs and everyone getting along friendly, just to kind of get a feel for what it's like at the park. It is something kind of special to go to. I live about a 15-minute walk away, or 30-minute walk, with a puppy who likes to sniff anything along the way, but it's always worth the effort to go there and see this. The chance to socialize not only the animals, but to meet other members in the community, particularly during the time of COVID, was something very special and stand out. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please, Whitney. What really fascinated me and differentiated this park from other dog parks I'd visited, or what other friends and family have visited, is this was more family. There was not so much this is somewhere you don't just take your dog and you leave your dog alone and run around for 20 minutes and come back. This was an active community. And so when Louise reached out to me and other members of the community invited me to join a WhatsApp group, I was very surprised. If you don't mind going to the next slides. So we'll go forward. So a bunch of different dogs, everyone come together, but there was more to it than just a park where people would go to. If you don't mind going to the next slide, please. We saw collections of dogs of different shapes and sizes, where some parks have small dogs together and large dogs together. We had a community where all these dogs, different shapes and sizes, were playing together friendly and learning to get along together, which is just very inspiring. If you don't mind going to the next page, please. I understand that data gathering is difficult and the conflict and everything going through, but we really want to support and do what we can to make this permanent, because we do think this is a value add. And if you don't mind skipping to the last slide, please, Whitney, very quickly. Just for the final point, what I want to highlight and keep going back to the idea is this is an active community. We help and support each other. We clean up, we find lost and found, we help other family members come along. We even reach and communicate non-dog related issues as well. This is becoming a key part of the community going forward, and it's very important, critical, I feel, to keep that alive. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much, Rick. I do see that Deepa raised her hand and we had skipped her before, so I just want to go back and see. Deepa, are you there? Hello, Deepa?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to speak? Okay, I think we're just hearing some background noise there. So I'm going to bring it back to the commission now for discussion of this item. If you have some comments, please raise your hand if you would like to open this up for discussion. Commissioner Gopal.
Great, thank you, Chair. A couple of things. One, I looked at the instant report. Thank you for Commissioner Tampe and pointing me to it. So I've gone through all of them. I do see few incidents calling out some incidents of only few. When I say that few, only one or two out of the all 2 pages. When I see that either the dog is off leash and beyond the boundary, or kind of. And I think I'm just trying to make a comment here. I think it's very difficult to even put a boundary within a virtual boundary without it, and then if the dog cannot, you don't step out of kind of. It's very difficult if it is. So I do want to make that. I think I don't want to take that as a seriously if it crosses that one line across kind of. So that's what I see. 2 comments, and one, of course, talking about frightening a kid. I think that I'm sure that we'll look into it. But other than that, I looked at the incidents because when I looked at the incidents, I thought it is really scary. I thought, oh my God, what it is. But most of them are observations and talks about it. And especially I looked at 30 plus dogs and I see no incidents. I think that's amazing. So that's one comment I want to make it. And I'm trying to see that what further. I think a lot of citizens, community members commented on it. What additional data, other than the Little League interaction of it, is there any other data? Are we going to look for it? Because if that's only one, I'm just looking at the incident being one data. And if the incident data is not too much scary enough for us saying that, oh my God, what additional, other than the field usage policy of interaction with it, is there anything else we are waiting for it, Dr. Juan? I want to understand what that is too, because it's, some other members asked a similar question, so I had it the same in my mind.
So yeah, so the observation log that I would request that staff make would be how many people are, utilizing the field, how many people are utilizing the DOLA, how is the interaction going, is there spacing, is there, are the rules being followed, are, people picking up after themselves, and, what potential problems do we see? It's so that we can rectify those, for the future. And then I would just like to also add, I know there were some things mentioned about city staff working during COVID, and those were for essential services, and services to the park are considered essential. And so I would just, like to highlight that, observation of the DOLA was not considered an essential service during COVID. And so that is why staff were not asked to be out there to observe in the evening hours. So I just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, I would say there would be multiple data points that we would be gathering from participants in the DOLA, people, park goers, just park goers, and then as well as field use participants.
Okay. Only one additional comment or a question, and then I'll let I'll stop there. Is it already extended up to July 2022? Maybe I haven't gone back to your slide yet, but I think Dr. John, when you presented, is it already extended to until July 2022? Is that right? Right now, the DOLA trial is already extended.
June 2022.
Sorry, June 2022. Okay, because there was some request from the commentary. I asked about, okay, please extend it and make it permanent, but I want to make sure that it is already extended to June 2022, and I think the ask is about making it permanent. But right now, they don't have to worry about it until June 2022. That's correct. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Begor.
Hi. So we heard from the people who use DOLA that seem to be very happy with it. That's excellent. I mean, some of them have been obviously chasing this problem since 2017 or maybe earlier. So I kind of understand their frustration that this trial is extending. But perhaps, Director, you can explain to me, since the trial is extended versus it becoming permanent, I understand that there is data that you need in order for it to become permanent, but are you going to be doing, is it going to affect the DOLA in any way by it being trial as opposed to it being permanent, other than the fact that it's not permanent at this point?
I mean, the goal is to have the trial be successful so that the implementation is that of what the trial was, right? And so operationally, the only thing that I see that might affect it is really the future field use by the hour, which just may affect either how we decipher what the hours are at the point. So, you know, there's different options that we could pursue. It could be, you know, that we change the hours altogether, or that we say when the field is not in use, and here's where you go to know when the field is not in use. So it gives us the opportunity to figure out what the usage is going to be and make the most reasonable recommendation for the good of everyone.
Right. But at this point, the trial still remains with the same hours and everything remains the same, right? There's no change at this point.
No change at this point.
Excellent. When it becomes permanent, is there any plan to have some kind of a fence or anything around the area? Is that okay? So maybe then, yeah. So because there's only been one incident, I guess, where, you know, looking at the incident log, where a child was frightened by somebody's dog. So I think we should have, I mean, my thought process seems to be that this trial, this thought of extending this trial seems to be something that will help us gather more of that data. I mean, a lot of the kids were not even in the park for the past year, or even if they were, you know, that it wasn't used as normally Jollyman would have been used, say, in 2019. Right? Is that something that you would agree?
I mean, it's very hard for me to say because I've been here for a year and the whole year has been COVID. So I don't really know what the use of the park is. And because I couldn't send staff out there to tell me if there was any difference in the use of the park, I really don't know, other than to say we were not able to gather any data. We were not able to observe. And that's really where I'm at.
Okay. And so, but to be very clear, at this point, there's absolutely no changing in the trial, no changing in the timings. They can continue to have DOLA the way they have it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Thanks. That's all I needed at this point.
Okay, Vice Chair Shu.
Yeah, first, thanks to all the speakers. Thank you for sharing your experience and your opinion about DOLA. And I agree with you that from my resource, yeah, I heard everything went smoothly. And even I knew some friends live close to Jollyman Park. And before the DOLA trial, they did have some concern about it. But it turned out they're really happy with current situation, and they know the dog owners are very responsible. And I'm so glad that all community, yeah, they accept current situation. But for the extension, I just want to ask a director. So, are there any difference if the DOLA turn to permanent or for the trial? For my understanding, I think everything will be the same for the trial period and for the extension, or maybe only input some sign permanently. That's the only difference. Is that right?
We would update our policies that, you know, it would be a city-sponsored program at that park. So it would need additional permanent signage. There would be some costs associated. But the thought is that the trial runs so that the implementation of the permanent DOLA would not have any new impacts that we wouldn't be aware of. So, you know, based on the timing, we're hoping that that's the timing. Or, you know, like I had said, if we determine that, you know, we can effectively communicate when the fields are being used and allow the DOLA to be utilized when the fields are not in use, that might be an option too. So that's the nuance, I think, that would be the difference, if any.
Okay, and I have another question. So if everything just went smoothly, like now, I mean, 1 year later, nothing new happened. It looks like most likely DOLA will turn permanent. So between the trial ended and it becomes permanent, would there be any gap next year? Or
I would say if our recommendation, sorry to interrupt you, I would say if our recommendation is to proceed with the permanent implementation, that the trial would just go on until the new policy was enacted or the new ordinance was enacted.
Okay, no, I just...
You wouldn't really see a difference. It would just be a difference in signage being posted, and there would, I'm sure, likely be some more information about the permanency of the DOLA.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make sure, no matter if it's in the trial period or it turned permanent, the dog owners can bring their puppy there and buy.
I don't think I would anticipate ever putting a stop if the recommendation was to proceed with making it permanent. That would not be a fruitful endeavor.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Tambe.
Yeah, so I am, from a process-wise, still a little bit confused because when this was brought to us earlier, with the understanding that we would need to extend this, I do believe that in that conversation, when we had moved to extend it initially, this was supposed to be the meeting that we decided whether or not it would be permanent. So I'm a little bit surprised that this came up as an update on the agenda and not as an action item of either extending it or making it permanent or closing it. But my mom is scared of dogs. And when this first came to us, I love dogs, she's scared of dogs. So I was very, very cognizant of what it is like for a community member who has a fear of dogs. And, you know, my father's been bitten by a dog in his childhood. And so I'm very acutely aware of kind of the hesitations that an average park user might have in the case of in case of an off-leash dog coming up to them. That having been said, as a 30-year resident of Cupertino, well, 29, we technically moved there when I was 1, but as a 30-year resident of Cupertino, I have been to Jollyman my entire life. It's not the park closest to me, but I go there quite frequently because I have a lot of friends who live nearby. And during COVID, it was highly trafficked. It might not have been sports teams that were using that, but if from a collections perspective, like a data collection standpoint, I can tell you that it was incredibly trafficked. A member of the community had actually mentioned that, like there were more people taking walks, getting outside during this time. So my concern of just the layperson using this space was pretty alleviated. I think looking at the incidents, let me tell you, if somebody is afraid of dogs or gets hurt by a dog, they report it. And so the fact to say that there is no data is actually data itself. The fact that there are such limited interactions or alerts about problems with the off-leash area is actually data. To say there isn't data, I don't think is necessarily fair, because for those people who do have concerns or are scared, they're pretty vocal about it. I hear this from my mom all the time. Believe me, even me having a dog on a leash in the house is a problem. So I just want to kind of point that out. The second thing is, I don't think the community should suffer. They've been doing this for a long time. And this was a community-driven initiative. And I think that just because we've had so much turnover, both from the city manager side and, from our director side, and even our commission has kind of gone through some changes. I don't really think the community should have to suffer. That having been said, I do, recognize that, I don't think that Little League is an issue. I know that Little League is not an issue. There hasn't been overlap for us to look at because there is no overlap. But with the new athletic field use policy, I recognize that that might change. There is a potential for that to change, and it might not be the Little League group that is using it. However, I don't think that a 1-year extension is fair. I think that a 1-quarter extension from the implementation date of the athletic field use policy is a sufficient amount of time. I think 3 months with the new athletic field use policy is a good amount of time for us to be able to see if there's even a change, right? Because we're assuming that there's going to be a really big change after the athletic field use policy comes out. We don't know that yet, and I think giving it space to see if there's a change is important. But I do want to see if there's a way that we can shorten that time period, and it won't actually be as short as a quarter, because after a quarter, then it needs to come back to the commission. So that would be October or November of this year. Then the commission would have to approve it. Then it would go, and that's saying if the commission approves it, then it would go to the city council probably a month later. So the December or January depending on city council schedule. Once they listen to it, I believe it's like they have to hear the update once, then they vote on it. Then there's a gap of like 2 or 4 weeks before they can do the next reading of the ordinance. And then once that passes and they've heard community input, it wouldn't even take into full effect until the end of Q1 or beginning of Q2 of next year, which essentially puts us at making it permanent in the same timeline that we have right now, with the exact room for any community input, any prospective changes and things like that. So I think that if we shorten that extension from being June of next year to, 1 quarter after the implementation of the athletic field use policy, we still have, and one of the reasons why ordinances are given multiple readings is so that community members can come back and listen and give input and stuff like that. I think that we'll get kind of the balance that we're looking for, but actually move forward rather than just pushing the trial on and on. And I recognize the trial itself going on for a year doesn't necessarily change the day-to-day function, but I do want to take into consideration the time, effort, and energy that the community members are putting in every single time this comes to our agenda, every single time this comes to city council. And I really also want to take this off the plate of our department and be like, all right, we're done. Like, we don't have to worry about this. And so I think maybe shortening that would be great. And then the final 2 things are, I would like to separate. I think one of the challenges in the way that a lot of this has been worded is that we're saying, okay, if we're approving it, it's going to apply to all the parks. And I don't think that necessarily has to be the case. And so if we can kind of divorce those 2 things and really just get Jollyman over the finish line and then work with the next things after that, I think that might be able to create some efficiency. And then the final thing is, with respect to data collection, I would love to see actually written out, okay, these are the 10 dates that we're going to see the park. These are the 5 checklist items that we're looking for. And if we have a 90%, efficacy on these set things, then we as a department will tell the commission that yes, this is going to work. But right now it feels like it's very squishy. And since we've been postponing this so much, I just want to get a very clear, very set timeline with set requests and set expectations. And once those are met, have a very clear, very time-based process of what goes next after each of those points. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. So I think when we say, how long is the trial, I think we need to extend it for a year because we don't want to because we know it's going to take longer. But I think what we want is for the data, for our discussion to come back sooner than a year. We don't want to wait for another year to have these discussions and to continually be updating council so that they're aware of how successful this is on an ongoing basis. I feel like one of the things that happened is that council has not been brought along on this, and that's unfortunate. So I think I completely agree with, I'd like to see what it is that the requirements are, or the expectation is of what we're looking for and when. And to the extent that if staff doesn't have, I know staff is really busy and has a ton of items to do, and this has to happen after hours because it, by definition, is after hours. So to the extent that the commission could support that effort, I would like to open that up to commission members to see if anyone would be willing to participate in that. And I think whatever we can do to help staff, I'd like to see our commission take an active role in that. And so I'd like to hear what you have to say. The other comment I have, though, is about the field use policy. So what I'm hearing is that the off-leash dog hours may need to change depending on if somebody wants to rent or reserve the field. I'm hoping that that's a two-way street, that it's not just that if there's somebody who wants a baseball diamond, that we can't, that the DOLA has to change. If there are other baseball diamonds available at that time, I hope that we will work with the requesters to say, oh, we've got other things going on there. Would this other field be sufficient for you? My guess is, for the most part, what I've heard from Little League is that Wilson Park is far and away the park that they want to use. So it's much more desirable for them. And so I would hope that we would be looking, and I think this is going to go on. It's not just this year that we're going to have people signing up, and we don't know what that's going to look like. So I hope going forward that we look at all the uses of the park and say, well, how do we fit everybody in? Part of the goal of the DOLA was to allow everybody to use the park for some amount of time. It's a sharing opportunity. And so I think it should really be a conversation that is very fluid, that's not just, okay, DOLA has to give up if there's something else. I mean, if there's a revenue opportunity and this is the only way to take advantage of it, that's one issue. But if there are other options, I hope that we will be looking at all of the options and recognize that DOLA is also a priority for our residents. They shouldn't just go to the back of the line, is what I'm saying. So, Commissioner Vigor.
Yeah. So I think just hearing what the other commissioners are saying, there's one valid, very valid statement. We need to have some kind of, measurement of what is considered, useful data, so that we don't come back July next year and say, oh, by the way, this silly COVID got extended and we're back to trial one more time. So it'd be nice to have that data. I do, however, think that at this point, we should at least give you a chance, Director McGreeny, to go through this process so that you can feel comfortable making that decision. I do not see any, first, for the record though, I am a complete dog lover. I've had 5 dogs in my life. So I completely understand DOLA. I was one of those initial ones long, long ago that signed the paper saying we should have a dog park. So I'm very much, I completely understand and agree with the rest of the DOLA community on this one. I used to take my dog on the railway line, and yeah, they're mostly dogs are friendly, but some of them have bitten my dog. But that's, that's incidents which we'll just have to deal with if more information comes in. So that's why I am very keen, I'm okay rather with extending this, but I would like to have some point where we say, we've done enough trial, there hasn't been too much, so we should kind of close the door at that point. I really do think, though, that if we open this up because of the athletic fields, they may not be the Little League, but there may be other people who just the interaction might have some of an issue. Maybe we'll have a different kind of DOLA right there. We might have a situation where we might need to cordon it off with some kind of a barricade just to keep the peace between the different people. We don't know that. And I think gathering that data will be useful for everybody around. That's my thoughts anyway. Thank you. That's all I have.
Before we go on to other commissioners, I see your hands up. I did want to just make a comment. It appears that there are two people in the public that have raised their hands, and I just wanted to notify them that the public comment for this item is done. And so I thank you for raising your hands again. And this is the time for the commission to be discussing. So, Commissioner Gopal.
Thank you. I think hearing all the commissioners again, we all completely agree on the importance of it, and seeing more and more the kids, students talking about it, it really brings in, this is one of the key community things we need to support it. And the first question when I asked in the clarification section to Director Joanne is to understand what the impact would be when we start using the field policies with the little leagues coming into. And I would do the other way around. I would, again, I know this is this particular item is not to have a recommendation or action, but I think we need to strive towards the other way around. If we make this as permanent, what are the next steps? What are the other impacts? Others should take it. If the field policy has to make an impact, I would like to go on that path. So, because this is a growing community, and hearing it so many times, of course, I heard it, I don't know, n number of times of their, definitely the list is growing. And I'm sure that if you have one more on it, we need to have a half a day of this meeting, because I do expect maybe 100+ people lining up. Even if chair gives 1 minute to each, maybe then they will bring 200 people, because even the dogs will start barking on the behind, saying what's going on. So I think that we need to support the community in a completely different way, so that yes, we tried it 1 year, 2 year. Now, what stops us to go make it permanent? Again, I'm just throwing this out, not this, but I'm just saying, what is going to stop us to making this permanent, and to see if anything comes up and we absorb any other new data, we do it. I'm sure that we will work with them, because they're so kind enough to bring in so much discipline into it, and either being in a presentation, either being sharing the data and all of them. So I'm strongly suggesting that we should go the other way around, not even, of course, extended it. But what stops us going and making it permanent, putting the recommendation there and say, let's see. And I would like to hear from other side, or who were saying that, no, let's not, kind of. I know it's staff is taking proper process, but given that community interest, if not, that's what we're here for, to serve. I like to go the other way around. We will go for making it permanent, and let's see what is it stopping us, and what are the things we need to unblock it, which will work with the community. They will come back to us and say, this is what it is. I think we should go the other way around. So it is an anxiety. If I'm a DOLA user, again, I'm a huge dog lover too, but if I put my hat on here, there is an anxiety being built, not just by the adults, within the adults. Now, while I'm happy that the students are coming in, they also feel that this may be taken away from them. So there is an anxiety and the frustration. Things are getting built, and I like to remove that out. They should just be happy and say, it is there. We will be much more diligent, disciplined, because it is permanent. I would like to make sure we do everything in it. Why can't we give that opportunity? I think that's a way I am pushing for. I really would recommend. I know this is not the place, but I think Dr. Joanne and Chair, I would like you to take this one as, let's do the other way around. That would be my strong kind of a comment and recommendation on it. So let me stop there. You're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Tambe.
Yeah, I'm still. I think that there is a middle ground here, which is kind of what I had proposed initially, which is extend for a quarter after the athletic field use policy implementation. We don't know if that's going to have drastic change in terms of use. However, one thing I'd like to point out is kind of echoing what what the chair had said, which was it's a park for everybody, not just the people who use the field for athletic purposes. It is also for the people who have dogs. And the fact of the matter is we've actually passed an athletic field use policy without considering what the DOLA people might need and considering what hours we're going to put in for that. So I think if we're willing to approve something for the athletic field use policy and then make modifications accordingly, I don't really see why we have to wait so long to make permanent this other thing. So again, I'm not saying that we need to make it permanent right away. I think it's important to see the athletic field use policy, you know, take into effect. I'm more curious about numbers and what that looks like. And then the second thing is making sure it's very transparent to the community and making sure there is a very clear layer of accountability, because it's just unfair. At this point, we're moving the goalposts for the folks in the community over and over and over again. And that's been through a couple of city managers, couple of directors, couple of city council members. Like it's just been a lot. And I think I echo Commissioner Kumarapun's vision of getting this passed. And again, like I said, it's still going to take about 4 months after whatever extension that we do to make it a permanent thing. And it would be great if when we say, oh, we're going to make this permanent, we're actually able to bring it to city council and say, hey, this is going to be approved, rather than, great, it's going to be permanent. Now you have to wait another 6 months until the ordinance and everything else goes into place. That seems, a little unfair to me. And I really, want to applaud the community members that are here right now and really encourage you to also get involved in the system. I term out. This is my last year. So I really encourage you guys to be the community members who, are involved in the system, and hopefully you can also help these processes go faster. So that's it. I would like to, because the commission had initially voted to extend it and make the decision at this meeting, and now we're not the ones making that decision, because there is flexibility there, I would like to see that 1 year extension turn into, a 3 month or a 6 month extension to take into consideration the field use policy, and then actually start taking the steps that we need to get this permanent.
Okay, Director McGreeny, can we get your thoughts on that process?
Sure. So I know everyone's least favorite word around here is COVID, and believe me, I have just as much frustration about people blaming COVID, but I hate to send the reminder that this is a pandemic and that there is no playbook. And, Parks and Recreation does not have hardly any part-time staff working right now. And we have had part-time staff off for over a year now. And we are in the stages of June 15th, fast approaching, and having to reopen facilities, offer programs, train and re-onboard staff, and deal with a whole new set of logistics. And so, I hope that you all know that my end goal is to make the DOLA a successful thing that we can bring with a solid recommendation to you as well as to the city council. That is the goal. That is the priority. And I think that we're all aware that the city council likes to have that data and that information to make a decision. And so I understand the want and the impetus to bring this back as soon as possible, but I also don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. The last time we met about this, we were extending based on, I think we all thought COVID would be over by this time and we would be able to collect sufficient data, and we thought things would be back to normal by the spring, which is when the interaction would occur. And so I'm just trying to be mindful that was the understanding that we went forth on the last time. And so that's what we'll be pursuing this time. And listen, I feel everyone's frustration, but I want this to be successful. Staff will have to manage this as a city-run program. So if there are any problems or issues, much like dealing with things happening out at the tennis courts that have never really happened before because of COVID, we will absorb that impact. And so I personally don't see a negative impact by extending the current trial. We're not taking anything away. The hours are the same. I'm quite happy that people that are participating out there are having a positive experience, and I want that to continue. But I feel like we have not done the data analysis and our due diligence as staff to give that unbiased information to make a recommendation. And so that's really what I'm looking toward doing. I would be happy to do that as fast as humanly possible. But, time is really not on our side with COVID at this point. And, just with all of the things that we are going to have to do in order to get back to normal. We are not flipping a switch. Staff are still telecommuting. Staff have not been brought back to the office on a regular basis. So there are still some challenges. And so I would just hope that you would be understanding and mindful. And I realize the frustration. No one is more frustrated than I am with the challenges of COVID. So, that's why we're making this recommendation that we are tonight.
So one of the requests that I've heard is for this very clear list of criteria. And so I guess my question to you is, when could we see that, and what can we as a commission do to help you get to the end point? How can, I'd like to see us help you.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, if you guys want to provide some input about what criteria you would want to see for making a recommendation, I definitely know what I would like to see from getting staff observations, but it will take time for us to be able to implement a process for that and to get staff out.
So when you say the process, I think, I think if you could show us the criteria that you have, then we can look at that and then say, what do we think needs to be added, or what do we think is unnecessary? And then once the criteria is established, then when you say it's going to take time to implement the process, if it's going out there, some of us are in the community maybe more than your staff are. And so that's where maybe we could help that. If they don't, it really imposes on their time to have to go do that. How can we help with that? And so,
your support would be much appreciated. Because again, the staffing right now is just it's not doable for.
Use us.
Yes.
So what's a reasonable time for us to see the criteria?
I would say in the next 2 months. Again, we have got a lot on our plate right now. And so I know that's frustrating to hear from me, but we have so much to do in the next, and things keep changing, right? And so we're having to adapt constantly with the new orders and the mandates, and getting vaccination information for employees and volunteers and contractors. So there's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes. So I would ask for, I know July 1st is the implementation of the new field. So, I don't, again, want to overpromise and underdeliver. I would love to get the criteria ready to go, by the July meeting, but that might not be possible.
So how about if we make that a goal, a stretch goal? And if that's, not possible, then, we'll reassess. But I think sometimes we lose sight of things. And so if we can put it on there as a goal, then, and then we can figure out what is it that the commission can do to help. We still have a couple of comments. I'm hoping that we can wrap this up. Commissioner Begor?
Actually, I should wrap this up really quickly. I was just going to add, if you could get that criteria, and as well the fact that, be happy to go out there and do the work for the staff. We'll be your part-time director, so that you don't have to go and find people to do this for you. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Shu.
Actually, what I want to say already discussed by several of you. I just want to support that we, in a future meeting, maybe next month or next month, discuss about a clear criteria. And I also think it's a good idea, maybe make the extension only for 1 quarter, because for 1 quarter we have the summertime. This is a time when we have a lot of outdoor activities, and we have the school reopening from next school year. So, and on this side, we have enough data maybe by next quarter. And on the other side, if our directors still have concern about the COVID situation, the pandemic situation, the city council still, because they need some time to for the process, so they still have the next spring time to collect more community input, just in case there's something unexpected happen. So I agree that maybe make the extension time shorter to this fall. That will be reasonable. Just this.
Okay, does anyone else have any other comments or updates on this? To close it out again, I would absolutely like to thank the members of the community for sticking with us on this. I know it's been a long process, and I wish it were different. I wish we didn't have COVID. I wish a lot of things. I'm sure Joanne does too. And hopefully we can keep working on this in a positive way and do what we can to make the parks available for lots of people. So with that, I'm going to close that item out. The next item on our agenda is the Blackberry Farm Golf Course feasibility study options.
Yes, and so this evening we have Jenny Koberman, our recreation supervisor, that will be providing the presentation on the item.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Good evening, Chair Stanek and members of the Commission. I'm Jenny Koberman, Recreation Supervisor, and I am here to present the golf course feasibility study options. One second here. Here's our agenda for the evening. First, I'll give you a little history of the course, then discuss the current status and usage, followed by options for the course and the Parks and Recreation System Master Plan as it relates to the golf course and nature. And then I will just end with reminding you of our recommended action this evening. So Blackberry Farm is a 10-acre golf course that was constructed in 1962 and was privately owned until 1991 when the city purchased the property. In 2014, a new master plan for the Stevens Creek corridor was initiated. Among the sites addressed by the master plan was the Blackberry Farm Golf Course. City Council reviewed several options for the Creek corridor in addition to a report regarding the golf course prepared by National Golf Consulting. At the time, there was significant public comment at the council and commission meetings. While no direction was given, 2 council members were supportive of a par 3 course, 2 were in favor of fixing the irrigation, and 1 supported conversion of the course into natural habitat. In 2016, NGF and MIG, who was working on the corridor master plan, returned to council and presented a preferred alternative for the golf course area. It included refined information for a recommended renovation of the course and additional financial information. So this is the course as it is today, and as you can see up here, this is Stevens Creek Boulevard. This little dark area right here is the current Blesh home. And this dark area here is the clubhouse, has the pro shop and the Blue Pheasant, the parking lot for the course. And this is the first hole, and it winds down to Blackberry Farm and comes back, and this is the 9th hole. The current irrigation system is original to the course, so it's over 60 years old. and you can't get parts for it anymore. It's inefficient, leaking, has asbestos pipes, and wastes water. The modern irrigation systems are divided into about 60-foot sections of watering, which can be controlled individually for specific amounts of time. Our system waters 180-foot sections with no control. So for example, let me show you how our system works. So the main line runs down the middle of the course here, kind of along the trees. And then the other pipes come off of it in spines, kind of like an old antenna on a rooftop, if you remember those. So if you want to water hole 1, you have to water hole 9. There's no way to separate out the 2 holes. So whether a hole needs water or not, it might be getting it. Because of this, our maintenance crew has to spend time hand watering various areas of the course. With a modern irrigation system, golf courses typically require hand watering certain areas 2 to 3 times a week. Our crew has to hand water 2 to 3 times a day. Leaks in the system require fixing 6 to 8 times a year, and when we do this, it requires draining the pipes and wastes approximately 10,000 gallons of water annually. The average water consumption at the golf course is 7.9 million gallons of water per year, with an average cost of $58,000 a year. Water rates are expected to increase 14% next year, followed by consecutive annual increases of 4% and 5%. Based on current usage, in 3 years, our annual water cost could be $75,000. Tee boxes and greens require rebuilding every few years to make them level. The protective netting on the 8th and 9th holes has fallen in recent years and needs to be replaced. The ponds have been empty since 2007. The ponds previously operated through a diversion system which brought water from the creek. This system stopped functioning when the creek levels dropped and has since been abandoned. The ponds no longer have the ability to hold water. It's recommended that this 1 acre area be converted to lowland native plantings that would require minimal watering. It is estimated that the current annual subsidy for the golf course is $300,000, which is about at 49%, and approximately 39% of those that use the golf course are residents of Cupertino. As a reference point, the Blackberry Farm pool and picnic area has an approximate annual subsidy of $890,000, which is about 78%, and 47% of those that use the Blackberry Farm pool and picnic area are residents. In general, golf rounds are up nationwide in COVID since it's been one of the only activities people could safely participate in. We do not expect this trend to continue as the country reopens. As you can see in this slide, prior to COVID, the average rounds played annually at Blackberry Farm is 28,000. This is 35% lower than our neighboring similar courses. We typically view Sunken Gardens and Sunnyvale as that which we are most similar to, and as you can see in the chart that even pre-COVID, they were at 43,000 rounds. The city revisited the options prepared by National Golf Foundation Consulting in discussions by council and the public. Based on these discussions, staff is seeking direction on 3 options. Our first option is to perform minimal repairs. This would fix the irrigation, tee boxes, and greens and convert the ponds to lowland native areas. The course would remain a 1,544-yard par 29 course. This option would reduce the annual water bill by at least $18,000. Based on a 2014 estimate, minimal repairs is expected to cost a minimum of $1.1 million. Post-repairs, the annual subsidy required is estimated to be $282,000. Option 2 represents the alternative plan that was presented in 2016. This would be a fully rebuilt 1,035-yard short par 3 course that would allow loops of 3, 4, 5, 7, and 9 holes of play. There would be a larger short game practice area and putting course. This plan also includes a relocated clubhouse/restaurant community building type option that could accommodate a grill, pro shop, and meetings and events for up to 200 people. This would also include a complete conversion of the Blush House to parking, creek restoration, and a footbridge to the trail. The minimum cost for the golf course only renovation was estimated to be $2.5 million in 2016, and the minimum cost for the construction of the clubhouse community building was $3.6 million in 2016. This option does have the potential to reduce or eliminate the subsidy. So this is the preferred option that they had come back to council with in 2016. And as you can see the changes here, this was the Bleshhelm, and this is now a parking lot with a bridge over to near the Stockelmeyer house. The clubhouse has moved down the course about halfway down what is currently the first hole. The parking lot is extended to funnel in so that you could do a bag drop right by the building. This is a putting course. This is not a miniature golf course. This is, you don't see them very frequently. I know there's one in Concord. I've actually played that one, and it's just a putting course. It's just a little 9 or 18 holes of putting. This area here is an enlarged practice putting green, and this over here is a short game practice area. The clubhouse also includes virtual hitting bays. And then the course itself, every hole becomes a par 3 and winds around, and there are different loops of holes that you can play in this. And I believe when they designed this, the goal was to make the entire place a more family-friendly location, encouraging multi-generational use. The putting green and short game practice area, as our putting green is today, we don't have a short game practice area, but our putting green is free to come and use. The putting course itself would be something that we would actually charge for. The third option is to close the course and return the area to natural habitat. Approximately 55,000 people visit the Stevens Creek corridor annually. This does not include the program participants at McClellan Ranch Preserve, Blackberry Farm Pool and Picnic Area, or the golf course. A return to habitat would require the need of at least one additional grounds maintenance position. Nature programs could be increased and could possibly require the addition of a full-time ranger. It should be noted that the corridor contains various protected and sensitive habitats and wildlife species, such as the steelhead trout, that are protected by law. The corridor, including the golf course, is also located in a floodplain and expected to flood periodically. Due to the constraints surrounding what is allowed in a floodplain in this type of sensitive habitat, there are limitations regarding the type of facility that can exist in place of the golf course. The course itself is an acceptable neighbor in the corridor due to the trees, potential to add more native plants to its landscape, and the passive nature of the game itself. Any type of facility that would require lights or may produce noise louder than a golf course may fail to meet regulations that protect habitat and wildlife in the corridor. In 2014, the estimate for this option was a minimum of $1.5 million. The ongoing subsidy is estimated to be $200,000 annually. The Parks and Recreation System Master Plan does provide direction when the city embarks on a program of strategic reinvestment, renovation, or expansion of a major facility. To strive to meet the priorities of the community, to evaluate the benefit before doing a like-for-like replacement, consider repurposing or a more significant remodel to retool the current inventory of facilities and better meet community needs. Consider new trends and needs as well as the preferences of nearby neighbors before replacing failing amenities and facilities in kind without reviewing current needs. Also mentioned in the master plan is that any renovation to the course should provide improved habitat value. Decisions about the property should respect its unique location and emphasize choices compatible with increased ecological value. Nature experience was a key theme that came out of the community outreach for the master plan, and expanding access to nature is a top priority for the community. Participants consistently favored incorporating nature and increased access to natural open space over other potential enhancements. As part of the master plan process, in 2017, an activity participation survey was conducted that included over 50 different activities for participants to choose from. There were 939 respondents to the survey. The results indicate that 16.8% of residents participate in the sport of golf or use a driving range. For that same year, the national average of golf participation in the United States was just over 7%. 67% of residents who participated in the survey walk for pleasure or fitness and do nature walks or hikes. In general, the master plan outreach process showed that 85% of respondents noted that improving access to natural open spaces is desired in the city. So that is the end of my presentation, and just to remind you that our recommended action this evening is for you to receive this report on the golf course feasibility study options and to provide a recommendation to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. What I'd like to do is now bring it to the commission for questions. What I'd like to do is notify our public that is still sitting in that hopefully by the end of our question period from the commissioners, if you would like to speak on this issue, that you have your hand raised so that we have an idea of who would like to speak. So our first commissioner, Commissioner Tombe.
Great. So I had a couple of questions. One is, what is the primary difference between the golf course at Deep Cliff and the municipal golf course that we have in Cupertino?
The golf course at Deep Cliff is 18 holes. It's privately owned. It's not a full par 72 course, so it's not a regular length course. It does generally take longer to play it. It backs up a lot, but for the most part, it's a longer course.
And how does that compare to what we have?
Our course, you can play it in about an hour and a half. You can even play it in an hour or less if you get a really good day and you're by yourself or really fast. But generally, our course is a shorter walk for people, and you can play it in a shorter amount of time.
Is that because there's less usage, or the course itself is shorter?
The course itself is shorter.
Okay. And then
it has less usage of both.
Okay. And then the second question is there, we had actually talked to Deep Cliff many years ago. Is there anyone at the city who has any current relationship with the folks at Deep Cliff?
The only relationship that I know of having with Deep Cliff is that we have offered our classes through them, our instructional classes, because our driving range is 2 hitting bays into a net. Theirs is a little larger, so we have offered classes with them in the past. And if our golf pro who was teaching lessons could not accommodate the amount of people asking, he would actually refer them to Deep Cliff.
Okay. And then outside of this past year, I think that, what we've learned even from our previous agenda item is the importance of not necessarily looking at just the COVID year's participation, but kind of the general year. As you had mentioned, there's been an overall decline. Can you speak to what the difference has been over the past 5 years in terms of use of the Cupertino golf course pre-COVID?
Sure. I said this year it was the average. So the average of 28,000 rounds is actually the average of the last 5 years. So back in 14-15, we were at about 31,000 rounds a year. And then 15-16 went down to 28, 16-17 went down to 25, and then we went back up to 29, and then 18-19 went back down to 23. So some of that is, literally it depends on if you have a super wet winter. I know we've had a super wet winter in there, and it less people play in the rain. So it just kind of is a hit or miss. Then you get a pandemic and you get like 41,000 rounds.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I know that we measure by rounds, but have we measured by household?
We had, so prior to 2018, we didn't have the registration system that we have now with Active. And so I think you're talking about unique users of the golf course. So of those 28,000 rounds, you're right. A lot of them are repetitive customers. And so because you can buy an annual pass, and people who live close by often do that, and then they play when they can and however many holes they can fit in. So we don't have the exact unique, we can't pull it for all the numbers. We still have a certain amount that are unknown to us. And so that's something we're looking to improve upon in the future, is finding out the exact unique.
Okay. Can we pull that for the 2018 and onwards data, or is that just not at all possible in the system as it exists right now?
We can pull some of it, but we can't pull a complete we can't pull all of it. We still have some unknown in there.
Okay, yeah, because just okay, that's a comment. So, and then wait, where'd my notes go? So I looked through the entire packet and all the appendices, but the projections that were given by the National Golf Park, the big packet with the projections for the next few years, that was a lot based off of kind of the cost of things at the time. I'm curious, how much more would it be? How much would it cost us to basically get renewed numbers? Because I'm just thinking about some of the other city projects that we have are costing a lot. So how much would it be for us to get like refresh numbers, since these numbers are kind of out of date, for me to like make a decision?
Right. I believe we, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, I think we thought that for them to just update the numbers that they provided 5 years ago would be about at least $10,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the goal of this item is to bring back to you all the information before we go study it, to make sure we're studying the right information. So I think our analysis is, if you decide to proceed with option 2, to get more information, that would probably be about $10,000 for them to just look at what current rates are. They wouldn't have to do a bunch more information or research. And I think it would equate to similar for any kind of estimates having to do with the irrigation. And then I think we quoted about $50,000 for estimates having to do with changing it to natural habitat and trails.
Okay. So the expectation right now is that we're making the choice on old financial data, with the hope that once we make a choice, they'll be able to come back with us with new information, but only for that option.
We're just trying to give you all the information we had the last time we visited this item, so that you're fully prepared and know what was said prior to us studying what you think we should study.
Okay, and then that's helpful. And then also, I wanted to talk, I'm trying to find the exact amount in the appendix, but how much water, it was listed in here, I know I read it, how much water is used annually to keep the golf course functioning? And then it's like 15% optimization with the renewed, if we were to go with the renewed irrigation system?
So yeah, so it's 7.9 million gallons that are used every year on the golf course, and we spend about our average water bill is $58,000. It's been lower, it's been higher. It just depends on the rain that we get that year or what have you. We believe that, and what our golf course maintenance guys have said, that if you were to replace the irrigation system, you're going to cut the water bill probably by at least 25%.
Okay, and so that we would be able to estimate that being the same in terms of the amount of water. So it's still, if it's 79, then you're roughly looking at like what would that be? God, clearly can't do math at night. But 25% decrease in that. Is the water that we use for the golf course potable, or do we have a gray water infrastructure?
No, it's potable. Gray water, the purple pipe, does not reach Cupertino, and that water is actually heavily treated sewage and has a lot of salt in it. And so that is really not something that you want in the golf course. It stays in the ground and you can't get rid of the salt. And the potable water that we use now, yes, it's tap water that is altered so it's safe for humans. And that actually, if you look at our old that's obviously an over 60-year water main running down the middle of the course.
Yeah, the asbestos one, yeah.
Yes, if that were, and that is fine, asbestos. It's fine because it's contained. It's when you have to cut it that it becomes dangerous to the guys working and et cetera. And actually, a lot of golf courses have those, but they have a new system. You don't remove the pipe, you leave it there because it stays contained and it's safe. It's incredibly expensive to remove an asbestos pipe. But if that main were to break now, and if it was a severe break and the water were to get to the creek, that would become dangerous for the animals in the creek, because your regular household tap water can kill a goldfish in your aquarium at home. So it isn't safe for the animals, for the fish in the creek.
So that's regardless of if it's the gray water or if it's the existing water. If this thing breaks, it's going to be really bad from a nature perspective. Okay,
Yes.
and then the final question I have is, what is the golf course's plan for the upcoming drought, and what will likely be many more years of on and off again droughts in terms of are we keeping the grass green? Is there a idea of going to turf? I like have golfed occasionally, but I'm not an avid golfer. So I apologize if my questions are a little rudimentary, but I'm trying to kind of understand that long-term impact in terms of our water usage,
Right.
and also just like keeping things green.
Sure. There's not a set plan for keeping things green. The water actually, it's funny, it was explained to me by the maintenance guys that it's not just because it's really hot and we're heading into a drought, it doesn't mean you have to water right away. The water table will continue to help it. It will stay green for a while. So while we may not have any rain for the next 3 months, we probably won't water a lot until 3 months from now. So it's not every month that it hits. So there's no set plan. They do the best they can with trying to keep green what is green. But there's no flat out, if we're in a drought, this is exactly what we do or how much we cut, unless the city isn't, unless we're instructed that we need to cut water usage by a certain amount.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Begor.
Yeah, so we have data that says a certain number of people have been using this particular golf course. This one being a 9-hole versus the Deep Cliff being 18. Is there a preference? Is there a age associated preference for one over the other?
I think you generally get, I would say almost half of the golfers at Blackberry from the data we can pull are considered seniors. Seniors is 50 and over. So that might be a little broader than some statistics somewhere else, but I do believe we get an older population at our course because it takes, they don't have to walk as far and it takes less time to play. We have 4 carts at Blackberry and we do try to reserve those for people who can no longer manage to walk the course.
Okay. The other question I have is of the options, and given the time, given just, since they were from 2016 or earlier, has there been any kind of a rough estimate even as to what that number would be? Because if the numbers turn out to be so bad that the return on investment, do we have any information on that basis?
Sure. So the index that for the last 6 years, the estimate would be an increase of 23% over the cost at that time.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, I'd like to ask IT if they could make me a host again. I dropped out for a minute there because of my internet. Luckily, I still had my phone going. So I was able to listen, and thank you, Commissioner Tombe, for asking a lot of questions so I could just get back into the meeting. Vice Chair Hsu.
I want to get more information that not mentioned in the slides. Should it be in the discussion part or ask a question?
This should be question part.
Oh, okay. And I look at the annual subsidy for option 1 and option 3. So it says option 1, that's 280,000 annually, and option 3 is 200,000. But from I heard from some advocator, they want to make the Blackberry Farm golf course back to natural open land. They said the biggest benefit is that after that the city can pay much lower maintenance fee for this area. But look at the subsidy, I didn't see much difference. So I want to know the more, so I assume that's because the golf course, people need to pay money to play at the golf course, but for the open land, it's free to everyone. So I want to know more information about the maintenance fee annually for option 1 and option 3 to compare them, and how much our city gain for the golf course. Yeah, that's the information I want to know.
Sure. So option one is, the minimal repair. So it's really replacing the irrigation system, and that will decrease your water consumption. It may bring more golfers to the course. So whatever the decrease in the consumption of water is will help lower that subsidy. Exactly what that amount is, we won't know until we do it. We know it should be much more than it is now for sure. But it will depend on how many people, if we get more people out to the golf course. Once we feel that we have a new irrigation and the golf course can look its best, it looks amazing now for what we have, which is a system that's outlived itself for 30 years. And so our crew does an amazing job. But the maintenance costs are all still there. Everything is there. And we would hope that, maybe we raise prices a little and get on par with Sunken Gardens, and we can offer much more programming out there. And we hope that we draw in more rounds. That's always the goal. And so you're still going to have a subsidy required from the city. That's just our estimate for that one. The third option of returning to nature, again, it has to be maintained. And so we would probably require, with that amount of space, it's an additional 10 acres of land of natural space. And so that does need a certain level of maintenance by our maintenance staff. And our hope would be that we could increase our nature programs and use that area. We don't know how much that revenue would be. If we were to hire a new ranger cost, then you have the cost of the ranger's annual salary plus the grounds maintenance crew. And then we would hope that as much programming as we could do would help offset that cost. So our estimate is $200,000, and that's based on bringing in $20,000 additional on nature programming. If it could be more than that, that would be our hope. So there's still going to be a subsidy required, even if there's nothing there. But you're right, it's a space that's not generating a lot of revenue, but you still have to maintain it.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Gopal.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Jenny, for all this information. And I do have a couple of quick questions, which kind of already you answered, but let me ask again. If the cost of maybe the inflation or in general the index, as you mentioned, if it is 23% on it, for example, if I look at the option one, the minimum cost is 1.1 million. At the same time, the option three, which is converting into natural habitat, is 1.5. Is there any specific reason? Because maybe before I go there, what is the water savings from the first option, which says 18,000 is saved, and then maybe what is the option two? It doesn't specify what is the cost saving on the water itself. So
the water savings, it is in that report. They're estimated for option two. Is that what you're asking with the water savings?
Yeah, option two. Yeah, at least let me go with that first one. Question is 18,000 is option one, but option two, how much we are saving it?
So back in that report from 2016, what they projected the amount spent on water in year one would drop to 29,000. And then by year 5, it may go up to 35,000, and that's just based on a natural rate increase. And so that was their projection back then. And that's because it's a smaller footprint to water. It's 500 yards shorter than the current golf course, and so there's less turf to water.
I see. The other question I have is that why in the option two, when you say potential to reduce or eliminate subsidy, can you tell me, because I'm not familiar with this, so it'll be good to get educated. Sure. Why is that it'll be gone?
So it depends on what you would do with option two. If you put in the banquet facility would generate all the revenue most of the revenue for the golf course. And so they projected at that time that if you had the banquet facility in year one, you would no longer need a subsidy and it would be running in the black. If you didn't have the building and you just redid the golf course that way, but didn't move the pro shop or didn't build that community building and have that income from a banquet facility, it gets a little more foggy there because there's a lot of things in their estimate that are attached to the building. So for example, they had revenue from the golf simulators. Well, those are in the building. And then they had locker rooms and those are in the building. So some of their numbers are slightly off. If you flat out just said we took out the banquet facility, it would look like the golf course could be in the black in 3 years. But some of their numbers, to me, aren't completely clear as far as the rentals go. I don't know how many more rentals you would have of golf carts when you have a shorter course. I don't know what the need would be or certain things like that. So there is a potential that it would significantly lower depending on what was in there, or eliminate it depending on what was built.
Okay. The last question I have is, if I look at the master plan community outreach, the results, and I know it says around 939 respondents, and 67% of the residents who participated in the survey said that it's walk for pleasure or fitness on it. Is that one of the key reasons why there is an option 3 now we put in there? Like either we repair it, minimum repair. I understand between the first 1 and 2, which is either do a bare minimum repair, keep it running, so that let's not worry about too much. But the second one is option 2 is, you know what, let's do a complete renovation type, spend like $5+ million on it, but still I don't see a big saving on it, but I do understand these two. But why there is a third one, and what is that triggered to convert into natural habitat? Is it because of that survey respondents, or why there is an option 3?
There's an option 3 because back in 2014, when the corridor master plan came to commission and council and it was discussed, there was a lot of public input, and a lot of that public input came saying we didn't even get an option to go back to nature. And so there was a desire at that time to have had that option. And so we felt like at this time, if we're coming back with that this is what people indicated they wanted to at least have that option, that we would include the option this time around.
Okay, this is based on the public input by then, like 5 years or 6 years back, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have it for now.
Okay, I'm going to jump in with a couple of questions, and then we'll come back to you, Commissioner Tombe. One of my questions is what is the capacity of Blackberry Farm Golf Course? If it was booked all day, every day, like what percent capacity is it running at?
That's a good question, Carol. I don't actually know that information off the top of my head. I'd have to get back to you on that.
I mean, if it got wildly popular, could we double the number of rounds? I mean, from 40 to 80, or 28 to 56. What is the capacity? I think that's
sure.
That's something I'd like to understand.
In its heyday, the golf course was definitely well over 40,000 rounds of golf, and that's when golf was in its heyday. Back when Tiger Woods was on the scene, and suddenly everybody wanted to play golf, and so
that was the demand. So I'm looking at the supply side of that. What could we offer?
Exactly how exactly what, like for now, because we would normally run our tee times 7 minutes apart, and depending on the time of the year, now we're open very late because we follow the sun, and so obviously sometimes of the year are much shorter than others. So I would have to get that data and get back to you on that.
Okay, and so you said 7.9 million gallons for the golf course. How much, do we have an estimate of how much water would be required for the natural habitat?
We do not. I can tell you that McClellan Ranch Preserve uses about 700,000 gallons, but that was in 2019, and the gardens were closed, so that would not have included the garden beds at that time.
Okay, but the gardens aren't natural habitat. I mean, that's watering vegetables, right? So how does the footprint compare? So did you say 10 acres is, how big is the golf course? 10 acres?
Yes.
And how big is McClellan Ranch?
16, maybe? Not 100% sure. It's tricky on the corridor. There's only 2 meters, and there's the golf course and there's Blackberry Farm. And so we have to try to figure out exactly what, like we have talked about this. We don't exactly know what includes like Stocklemeyer and McClellan. So, the orchard, and plus you have the pool area and all that. So it's a little tricky to figure out, apples to apples on that. I can tell you how much certain parks use. for example, but like Memorial Park is 5.9 million gallons of water a year.
Yeah, but so specifically I'm looking for,
and nature.
If we were to look to really be preserving water, I mean, knowing that the drought is coming, is there an advantage to having the natural habitat over the turf? I would think there is, but I'm trying to quantify that. So that's
sure. I don't have an exact number on that for you. Of course, it would be significant because a natural habitat, they will definitely need water to get established. And then after that, you know, it wouldn't need as much water, kind of like what Grassroots is doing.
Right.
Out in Meadow.
Sure. So the ongoing basis. Okay, Commissioner Tombe, and then hopefully we can get to public comment.
Put my hand down. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I remembered my question. Just kidding. Sorry. Okay, so I'm looking at page 90 around the banquet, the estimated revenue being generated out of the banquet and meeting lease space. Has there been any study or any review done in terms of the kind of external impact that will have? So like parking, traffic on Stevens Creek, because I know when we were talking about the Stockelmeyer house and renovating that, there was a long discussion of like, should that be an active area? And this is looking at increasing that active area. Has there been any study around that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is it possible for us to, in the future, get some of the data from the new system about like per like unique users, not just
yes.
by rounds? Okay, cool. Thanks. I'm really excited to hear from folks.
Okay, so now I'm going to open it up for public comment. And so I hope that everyone who is desirous of speaking, please raise your hand. Right now, I have Chris Chapman, Georgia Law, Rose Grimes, Linda Ruthrup, and Shawnee Kleinhaus. So, now I see Bob Hurt and Wing Law. If there's anyone else who would like to speak, please raise your hand in the chat or in the Zoom, so we know who it is. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and those are the people who we will be allowing to speak. Again, because this meeting is going so long, we will be allocating 2 minutes to each speaker, and our director McGreeny will let you know when there is 20 seconds left. And Joanna, I would just say to speak up, because when people start talking, sometimes they don't hear you. So that would be great. So our first speaker is Chris Chapman. Chris, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Chris Chapman. For the last 6 years, I've been playing Blackberry Farms every Tuesday afternoon, and I play 6 months out of the year there. I'm urging the Planning Commission to continue to fund and support the golf course. I believe the city of San Jose at one time questioned the viability of Los Lagos Golf Course, and fortunately the decision was made to continue to support the golf course. I believe the increased usage the golf course has seen during COVID-19 will continue in the future. Many more people are going to be working remote, and they're going to have more flexible work schedules that may allow for a chance to get out and get exercise in an hour-and-a-half course rather than 4.5 hours playing 18. I think so. I think it will increase in the future. It's imperative to provide the community with healthy outdoor experiences. I also believe the development of a shorter course would not be very desirable. This is already a small 9-hole course, and I think you would lose potential paying golf players if you were to shorten it even further. It would become more of a putt-putt than it would even just a 9-hole course. So I really wouldn't like the option that you move the clubhouse down and obliterate fairway 1. I wouldn't find that very desirable. So I'm advocating, and please consider allowing the land to continue operating as Blackberry Farms golf course. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is Georgia Law. Georgia, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Georgia Law, and I've been a Cupertino resident for 15 years. I would like the Blackberry Farm golf course to continue. Number one, we can, if Sunnyvale can afford to give their residents a golf course, there's no reason Cupertino cannot. Number two, this is the cheapest solution to renovate the irrigation system and so on. But money is not the only thing that we consider. We have to consider people. My health index has improved ever since I started playing golf at the Blackberry golf course regularly. And I would not be able to do that if it was farther away or if it's a longer course. And then objectively, not just for myself, Blackberry Farm golf course is conveniently located, beautiful, well-maintained, and supported by a wonderful staff. And even young people are attracted to coming here. For example, my daughter comes here to play with me, gives me a chance to spend time with me, and she comes to play with her friends. And then it's like she's graduating from the water slides to the golf course of Blackberry Farm. And so she'll be playing with her friends, not just her, all the young people. And this will ease them into playing this game socially as they advance in their careers in the corporate world. And this is particularly dear to the senior citizens here because it allows them to come out and then make friends and get some vitamin D. Better than staying home by themselves. It's good for their physical and mental health. Finally, again, golf carts are allowed in this whole course, which is, I think, the only one in the South Bay, and allows people to play longer in their golden age. So I sincerely hope that the Blackberry Farm can continue to be around and be a dear part of the Cupertino community and culture. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. Our next speaker is Rose Grimes. Rose, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thanks. I'd like to shout out to Gopal. We were colleagues on the Library Commission a while ago, so it's nice to see you again. I strongly recommend that the Commission perform a feasibility study on option 3. I think it's a wonderful possibility to return that land to nature. One of the reasons is agreeing with the former 2 speakers that it's wonderful to have areas where we can go out and enjoy nature. But clearly from the master planning and the recent surveys and public input, the vast majority of residents in Cupertino, 85%, want to be able to go out and walk for fitness and for enjoying nature. So that just seems like a wonderful option. But in addition, the discussion that we've had about the cost to the city, the cost for maintenance, and the cost of irrigation, it really seems to beg the point that the Parks and Rec Commission needs to understand what the ongoing costs are going to be, not only in terms of dollars, but the usage of water seems potentially very irresponsible in that area on an ongoing basis. So I would strongly recommend that you recommend a feasibility study or undertake one, recommend one to the City Council, and explore the option of sending that land back to natural habitat. I think it also addresses many of the city's goals, long-term goals in terms of climate change and offsetting emissions, and maybe something where you would like to also engage the Environmental Commission, Environment and Sustainability Commission, and have them partner with you on something like this. So
20 seconds.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Rose. Our next speaker is Linda Russell. You may unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Linda Ruthrup. I'm the Conservation Chair for the California Native Plant Society, Santa Clara Valley Chapter. People need to spend time in nature. It improves their health, it improves their creativity and problem-solving abilities, it improves their mood and their sense of well-being. Walking on a city street does not give the same benefits you get from a walk in a natural area. Certainly a golf course can be planted with native plants and provide habitat and provide a lovely experience. but you've done your outreach. Most of your community wants to have improved and increased access to nature. Returning this space to nature would serve more of your residents, and we encourage you to choose option 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you for being respectful of the time. Our next speaker is Shani Kleinhaus. Shani, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening, Chair and Commission members, and Jenny. I'm Shani Kleinhaus. I'm the environmental advocate for Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society. We advocated along the creek for many, many years. I participated as a stakeholder in the master plan. And the option 3, hi Nisha, option 3 definitely came from the community. It came from the community. That's what the community wanted. It wasn't one of the options that the city proposed initially. And so it's critical that this should be taken very, very seriously, and the feasibility study should be done. One of the things that I think is somewhat inaccurate in option 3 is that it has a cost of $1.5 million. And I think that not only you can get all that money from Prop 84 or from the Valley Water grants for restoration, I don't think it will cost even, almost nothing to the city. Not only that, the water district may even use it as mitigation and pay the city to take it and maintain it for you, like they do already along the creek in near the area that they used for restoration. So I think that to look at a comprehensive study, feasibility study that looks at options for money from other sources for this, and really look at returning it to nature, I think that's what the community wants. And you may want to go back to the community and ask everybody in the community, what would you prefer? I'm not saying golf is not a good thing for the community, but you have two in a very close proximity, and nature is a huge demand. And right now, increase of use of the trails and along the creek has increased tremendously. It's probably 100 times more than it used to be. So I don't think you see that data, and it would be good to have that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Shani. Our next speaker is Bob Hurt. Bob, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. 26-year resident of Cupertino, and I've played Blackberry Farms a couple times in that period of time, many, many more times at Deep Cliff. So the golf options are available. I'm here to speak for nature, and I want to tell you that I participated in the last study 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was, and the community was overwhelmingly behind option 3, or having an option 3. When they were studying, do this for the golf course or do that for the golf course, the community wanted to have a feasibility study, and I think they still do. I think it's very important for you to understand that there are ways to mitigate the costs. I do not believe the water usage will be extreme. McClellan Ranch Preserve uses very little water, and I don't think the new nature preserve, after it's established, will have ongoing water usage that's extreme. And with droughts coming up, I think our community should be a leader in doing the right thing for the environment. That's all I had. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bob. And our last speaker is Wing La. Wing, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner, for letting me speak. I've been a resident for Cupertino for 25 years, and I learned to play golf recently at the Blackberry, and I enjoyed it very much. To the point when there are visitors from, especially outside of the country, I love to bring them to the golf course because it's something that I'm proud of. It's a beautiful place. It doesn't take a long time to finish it, and they totally enjoyed it because outside of Cupertino, there is no other place that is so beautiful and so friendly to someone visiting. And then afterwards, I'll bring them to the good restaurants around here. It's just a wonderful experience. Now I have heard there is a desire to change it into natural habitat. But Cupertino has a lot. I mean, we have Rancho San Antonio, we have Stevens Creek Park. I mean, we have a lot of natural area already. So it's maybe important to have some diversity, right? So that when someone out of town, it can bring them to see the trails, but also bring them to do a quick but beautiful round of golf, right? So that they have a very good impression of Cupertino as a city where it's friendly to residents as well as to business, right? And to people coming from out of town. So I really hope that you can consider continue to have the golf course. And especially during this time of COVID, it's just like a wonderful, wonderful place to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you for being mindful of the time. Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the commission. I'll close public comment on that.
Chair Stanek, I do have 3 comments from the public that were emailed.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you, Whitney.
So I think if we do the timer for each, I'll try to run through these quickly. It's my first time doing this, so bear with me. Okay, so this one comes from Pearl Law. Let's see. This is a statement in support for Blackberry Farm Golf Course. I've been golfing there for 4 days a week to keep healthy and enjoy Cupertino's excellent weather in the last 4 years. My health index has been improving steadily. I come to play with family and friends, and especially when we have out-of-town guests, sometimes they're coworkers all the way from other countries where golf is very expensive. The Blackberry Farm Golf Course is very special. It is very scenic and well-maintained, on par with the best in the world, yet small enough to have only 9 holes so that non-golfers can learn the game and enjoy easy. A lot of my friends learned golf at Blackberry Farm and became very attached to the fun of it after a few games at Blackberry Farm. They formed a very good impression of Cupertino at the same time. The staff was very helpful, warm and nice, giving the vibe of a real community. This is very rare in this center of the technology world. Some of my friends came to Blackberry Farm to golf, then spend time at local restaurants for brunch and do some shopping. Some of my friends work for Apple overseas, and they use Blackberry Farm to enjoy free time after work when they travel here for meetings. Thank you for providing an affordable yet excellent place for us to play golf. That's from Pearl Law. The next one. This one comes from Barbara and Paul Davis. My husband and I have written to the Parks and Recreation Commission to express our desire for Blackberry Farm to remain as it is, a golf course for the use of families and seniors. We have used it for over 30 years and now can enjoy our 2 senior groups. Check the increase in usage over the past year. It's popular. There are very few outdoor exercise areas available for seniors. I can't think of any other, and it would be a shame to eliminate this very important one. The plans for multi-use are unreasonable, as is the return to natural habitat. At the senior center, bingo at the senior center does not count as exercise. Please check, wasn't there a ballot measure years ago to keep Blackberry Farm as a golf course? And didn't the city council face strong opposition from people in the community during in-person sessions when it tried to eliminate the golf course a few years ago? I don't expect a response, but I would sincerely like your consideration. From Barbara and Paul Davis. And the last one is brief from Dave Forster. It says, I understand Blackberry Farm Golf Course could be in danger of being repurposed. I beg that you allow it to remain since it is such a wonderful course and restaurant in Cupertino. With a few more resources, this land could really attract patrons in the future since golf's popularity is exploding. And that is it.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, now I'll bring it back to the commission. And I guess one question I have to start us off is to Director McGreeny, and that has to do with the outreach that we did for tonight's program, because we did get a ton of feedback from the golfers. And so I'm wondering what the outreach was, because this is really a community asset.
Yeah, I'll let Jenny speak to that actually.
Our outreach was to, on the city's webpage, there's the e-notifications that people can sign up for. So it was, the meeting itself was sent to the groups that were under Blackberry Farm, under McClellan Ranch Corridor, McClellan Ranch, and any group that was tied to the corridor, as well as we mailed out to all residents within a quarter mile.
Okay, so it was really pretty local to the corridor.
Correct.
Okay. Anyone, commissioners, would you like to open up the discussion? Commissioner Gopal.
Great, thank you. Jenny, just follow up on the previous questions on the option 3. I know it says 1.5 million, and I understand in the first option it was 1.1 million for minor repairs for the water irrigation pipes and whatnot. Is it the same included in the option 3 as well, and on top of it something else? Because I'm trying to understand what is that 1.5 million. I'm sure that if the pipes are leaking and if the water is getting really wasted, I'm sure that we need to fix it. So even for the option 3, assuming that is including that 1.1 million. Is that right, or something?
No, actually, it's not. It's so the 1.1 million back in 2014-15 when they were talking about this, the estimate at the time for the irrigation alone was at least $850,000. So if you took that $850,000 just to do, I know when we do greens and tees, one hole is about $20,000 if you do the tee box area and the green area. And so now you're looking at another $180,000 for all 9 holes. Now it might not be $180,000 because you're doing them all at once, right? You're not doing it. So that's an estimate for that. And they also had given us an estimate at one point in filling in the ponds with lowland native areas, and that was about $27,000. So that's where that 1.1 comes ish for the first one.
Okay.
The 1.5 was the 2014 estimate that MIG gave when they were asked about it. It wasn't in part of their report because it wasn't an option at the time. And council at the time asked, what do we think that would cost? And at the time, they thought it was projected at about 1.5 million.
And what is the components of that 1.5 million? What are the
1.5 million would be you can't just let the course go, right, and expect it to be back to nature. You have to remove all those grasses. Those grasses are not native to the area, and so you have to remove everything that is there and then replant the natives. And of course, natives don't always do what we want them to do, and just you put a net around them and they happily live ever after. We've seen that on other parts of the corridor, that you net your little tree, you put your little cage around it, and 2 days later it's gone because some creature got in there. And so it takes a while to establish that, and it takes a lot of work to design and establish that kind of area.
I see. And that means it's but yet, even if you remove the grass and whatnot, but still the irrigation system needs to be touched as well, because irrespective of it, you need to repair it, the minimum repairing.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to figure it out. That means if it is 1.5 plus 1.1 would be or close to it. That's what I'm trying to see. Is it the way we are to think about it, even though we don't know the exact amount, but if I look at it, it's not just 1.5, but we also need to add maybe 800K, whatever we are talking about, fixing those broken pipes or the.
Yes. So I understand what you're saying. Yes, you would need to replace irrigation to a certain extent, but it may not need to be replaced in the same way that it would be replaced for the golf course, right? Because those plants wouldn't need the amount of watering that the grass needs. So it would be a different irrigation type system that would require, I'm sure, far less water for natural native plants there than what is there right now.
Okay, yeah. So it looks like even if I put it, the reason I'm bringing it up is for our own understanding that it will cost, maybe if I put even a 500K. So looks like that we are talking about around 2 million on it too, right? So I'm just trying to figure out what is the total cost, because some of them are missing the other ones, because I just want to make sure that we have to add it up to see on the same reference line. Otherwise, we don't see it in the reference line. That's what I was trying to go into.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would really look at them as two completely separate things. It's not just that plus the nature that the irrigation would be so different. And so if you took that 1.5 estimate from 2014 and you did the 23% index, that's probably more of the starting point for the cost of number 3. And as one of the speakers said, there could be funding from different sources, grant funding for that. That would have to be something that would be studied and looked into.
So can I just hop in here? Because I know we've struggled with how we were going to present this information. I mean, it's very hard. We know people want numbers to make a decision, but these numbers are not accurate anymore. So, it's the struggle. So we, thought that it was better to give you what we had from the past so that you would have some kind of gauge in making your recommendation. But the point of this really would be, based on the recommendation, go get the updated numbers and get some more tightened up information. But I completely see why you're asking, like, what does this really involve and how much is this really going to cost? And we're not there yet, but it's complicated how we presented it. I apologize.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add one more comment and I'll leave it for the other commissioners to jump in. The reason I was asking those questions are some of them are very clear, and it's like this is irrigation, whatever the 1.1 million or the other one removal plus going with a completely revamped. All of them seems to be a very kind of a fact-based kind of when it comes to the natural habitat conversion. That's why I couldn't put my finger on why this 1.5. How did they come to arrive at? I have no idea how to really map it. That's why I was confused, and that's why
this option was never studied previously. So we are just going off of what information was given by the landscape architects at the time it was presented to council and inquired about. So we kind of have no real starting point on the natural habitat because it has never been studied prior.
Okay. Yeah, I might have more comments later, but let me hold my thoughts for now.
Thank you for letting the other commissioners get in here. Commissioner Begor.
Yeah, so I just have a couple of questions. Again, this may be something that will just be questions or comments that you'll have to come back and say, you'll figure this out. Do we give any kind of subsidy in any way to Deep Cliff at this point? And do we get anything back from Deep Cliff? Do they own the whole property? So do they get anything from Cupertino at all? Do you know?
Deep Cliff is a private course, so it's their own property.
Completely. So there is in no way, shape, or form, do we give them any tax break, anything like that? Do we know?
I don't know anything about the taxes, but I know it's a private course that. I don't know. Wouldn't know that.
Okay, so we probably want to know, because when you look at how much it costs to play, of course, it is twice as large, but it's 18 holes versus 9 holes, but I think ours is like $17 or something like that per, and theirs is $39 to start. It's a larger course. I mean, somebody who's used to playing on 9 hole will not be comfortable playing on the 18. If they go too slowly, they'll get pushed off the golf course or has to leave. They're paying twice as much to go onto. So just thoughts there that, although we have 2 courses right beside each other, literally, or very close to being close to each other, they're very, very different and seem to be targeting a different audience. The second part that kind of concerns me is that, we are looking at upgrading the irrigation system. However, we would have to remove in order to make this into a back to nature kind of place, we would have to do a lot more than just, fix the irrigation system or remove the grass, right? There is a lot involved in order to completely change that environment. And that cost, where is that cost, Mark down. I mean, there is the part of the grass, there is the part of, the irrigation obviously is going to be different, may not be the same as upgrading, as we talked about earlier with Gopal. It may not be the same amount, it might be something about half the size, but besides that, does the cost that's already specified, is the cost already specified there of what it would take? I mean, it seems to be a very rough estimate at this point, and to kind of do an apples to apples comparison with, maybe a good estimate versus a complete guess is a difficult. It's a difficult
Maybe if
situation
I
to
can
be in.
comment here, Sakshi, I think that's why option 3 is couched in the terms of do a feasibility study. And so one of the questions is, it's not just, do we want to go do the natural habitat, is, do we want to make the effort to go do a feasibility study to really find out what that would take? And so I think that would be necessary to make a good decision.
Yeah, true. And then the part that maybe it would be helpful is, do we know how much that feasibility study itself would cost?
Yeah, we asked.
Sorry?
That was in our materials. Joanne, do you want to address that?
Yeah, we're estimating it to be about $50,000 to do a feasibility study of.
I misunderstood. Okay, I misunderstood that. But I thought the upgrade to upgrade the numbers for both option 1 and option 2 is 10,000.
Yes, because they've been previously studied, so they wouldn't need to gather information. They would just need to update numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a little confusing, but you're getting there.
Okay, that's all I had to comment.
Okay, Vice Chair Shu.
So I have some questions regarding the option 2. It's mentioned the minimum cost for the clubhouse change. I think it's the largest amount of cost. So that means after you do some rebuild a new clubhouse, then will reduce the annual cost for the whole golf course. Or maybe I didn't understand why the annual maintenance fee can drop a lot for option 2.
So yes, option 2 builds it builds a building that includes the pro shop, a restaurant, a grill restaurant type area. And then it also it makes it kind of a community building, which allows you to have meetings and banquets for up to 200 people. And that's where golf courses who have banquet facilities, there's a lot of wedding venues that are golf courses. That's where they make a lot of their money, is off of those events. And so if you add that banquet facility in there, then you increase your revenue by that much. That's why it becomes operating in the black.
Okay, thank you. And there's another thing I want to mention. So from Gopal's question, I just, because at the beginning, I don't understand why the annual subsidy for option 3 is so high. But now my understanding is that after we remove the grass and plant new trees, they need much more maintenance for the maybe first several years. So that's why the option 3, we can see the annual subsidy didn't decrease a lot. But I assume maybe after 10 years, when the tree grew up and when there's more shade, maybe the maintenance fee can drop because they don't need so much water like the golf course. They only have grass and have the, there's no shade, so need more water for maintenance.
Right. So
I think,
Sorry. So
those are the kind of things a feasibility study might tell us.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, got it. Thanks. That's all.
So I just one comment to follow up on what Vice Chair Shu said about having this banquet facility in option 2. It seems to me, I was surprised that the comment about noise and light was made as part of option 3, because that seems like the lowest, high density kind of use. And that's what the lights and noise to me seems like it would be more related to option 2, which is, I think at the time was envisioned as what I consider the Cadillac option. It is the whole gamut of what would we want if we were going to attract as many people and have as much usage out of this thing, generate as much revenue, and make it a premier course. And frankly, what I'm seeing when you look at those comments from the golfers, they like that it's not a golf course. They're not looking for us to make this into something that's going to be so attractive to other golfers, because they like the little community, feel of it. And if it were to become something like that, it might keep them away, or other people coming in might make it harder for them to use it. So I think I was here when we were going through all that. It was at a time when we had very big ideas of what might be able to happen at this location, and I don't see us as a city going there right now. I think what we're doing, our interest right now is really serving our residents and not trying to do anything that makes us be a shining star that attracts a whole lot of traffic and other visitors. So that's just my thought about option 2. I mean, what I've heard is we have a ton of emails about option 1 that said we love it the way it is. I went over to the shop today or yesterday, I guess, because I was curious about the flyers that had been handed out. And so my understanding is that there was a flyer that was posted at the shop that notified the golfers, and it was put up by a resident. And so it makes a lot of sense that the golfers would want to communicate with other golfers and let them know, hey, the city is looking at doing something different here. And if you like this place, you better let the commission know. And what they described were 3 options, which were similar to the postcards that came to us, which said there were 3 options. One of them is to do minimal maintenance. The second one is to do this, par 3 9-hole course, and the third one is a natural habitat. None of it showed any dollars at all. And so I'm concerned that when the golfers read that and wrote to us, when someone tells me they're going to do minimal maintenance, I don't think $1.1 million. And so I'm concerned that some people were advocating for that, and they may not have known really what all the dollars were, because that was not presented in the flyer. And in fact, the shop told me that they were instructed to pull down that flyer because it was put up by a resident, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure, it was deemed inappropriate. So I'm not sure if someone from the city asked them to do that or what. But, what I'm seeing is a lot of interest in, 1, keeping it as is, although I'm not sure that the people who really want that understood what that cost is going to be. When you say minimal maintenance, are they really willing to go for $1 million to keep it the way it is? And then option 3 that we really don't have that much information about. I mean, we have a general idea, but that feasibility study is out there somewhere. And it seems to me to make a decision about this, we really need a side-by-side comparison of what the costs are going to be, what the staffing levels are going to be to maintain it, either as a golf course. How many grounds people do you need for a golf course versus how many grounds people do you need for a natural habitat? And maybe it changes over time so that it might be more intensive early on, and it could go down later as the vegetation gets more mature. As Vice Chair Hsu commented, But I think until we have a side-by-side comparison, I have a very difficult time giving the council a recommendation on one of these over the other. So that's my comments. Commissioner Tomei, do you want to comment?
Can I just
yes, please.
Pipe in for 1 second? Excuse me.
Yes, please.
The pipe. But I think that what we really kind of want to hammer home is that if there is a choice to continue with the golf course, that the deferred maintenance needs to be addressed no matter what, because there might be a bigger issue if it is not addressed. And so I think that minimally we want to get those numbers updated if the choice is to keep a golf course, certainly. So that is why we included minimal repairs, meaning to keep the golf course going, we have to do something. We can't do nothing. So we'll have to spend money to do the infrastructure upgrades. So I just wanted to clarify that as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think, I understand. And so I think we need to do that because these numbers are so old that some things inflation has hit them much more than other things. And so we don't know. And the feasibility study should also show us if there's grants we can get. But I also think to make this decision from the council and city perspective, we need outreach to the entire community. And to that end, I'm wondering, how do we get people who don't play golf to have an opportunity to walk it and to envision what it might be like as a natural habitat? Because unless you pay a fee, and even if you do pay a fee, if you don't golf, you can't walk it. So that was part of what I was wondering on the capacity is, are there days, if it's only at 50% of capacity, or even if it's at 70% of capacity, could we make it, and I'm sure this is heresy from a golfer's perspective, that we close it to golf 1 or 2 days a week? And so those golfers who normally do their, go golfing at those times, they go on the other days when it's available and they fill in slots, etc. But we make it available to community members to go walk it, at least on an open house basis or something like that. Because how can the rest of the community know what this is? We hear the golfers telling us it's a gem, but how does the city of Cupertino know, and how would other residents know how beautiful it is? Because they can walk next to it and kind of peek in, but they can't be in the midst of it. And so that's one of the things I was thinking is, how can we, just like we share the Dola, how could we share that resource, at least to get the community to have a better idea how to envision how it would work? Commissioner Tomei?
That's a really interesting point. I had never thought of that. I think that's a really good point.
Outside of the box.
Yeah, that was really cool. I've only been there like twice. My parents have gone more, but I don't feel like with the numbers we have at hand, I am comfortable making a decision at all. I tried to find it, but this was like right when I had started, and I didn't have my binder. I used to like keep these binders before everything was digital with like all my notes. But I know that there is a graph, and it was not in our packet. And so I'm gonna try and dive through some of the archives to find it. And it wasn't, so my issue with the NGF packet that was included here is that there's a inherent leaning in the NGF proposal to the city because it's a golf association. And I think that the idea of putting a facility that houses 200 people at that dip in Stevens Creek, like, again, lived here my entire life. Like, I am extreme, like, I walked that, and I walk that loop a lot. That's like my normal route for running or walking. I cannot imagine having a 200 person banquet event regularly programmed. That makes me super nervous from like an ecological perspective, from a functional perspective. It's one of the big issues we had when redesigning Stockelmeyer, was, should we make this a banquet space? And there's a lot of overhead. There's also liability and things like that. And because it's in a floodplain, the way that we design it is also really expensive. So the 2.5 that we have for the golf course renovation, and then the 3.6 that we have for the facilities renovation, those numbers, I mean, we were looking at how much does it cost to demolish, or not demolish, but close up the pond, and that's costing us 1.5 just to fill stuff in. I can only imagine what that cost looks like now. So I will look again at the minutes from back then, but there was a graph that had the operational costs and the upkeep for all of the years after, through the renovation. It would be like, renovation year one, the graph, all the information, and then how much the city would have to put into the golf course with the expected revenue, and a cost comparison for each of those things, but not option number 3 as we have it right now. And it would be great to see that updated. I don't know how to give a recommendation without, like, I don't want to say like, hey, yeah, let's spend, $7 million on a facility that could actually be costing us, $10 million. And that's I think that's like a pretty conservative view on increase of prices, just looking at construction prices in the Bay Area. But looking at that, when we have a facility that might not be ideal, but we have another facility that's like less than 0.25 miles away. So I'm wondering if there might be a way, because Commissioner Sashi kind of like piqued my curiosity about Deep Cliff and what the relationship is there, because I wonder if there's a way to create a deeper relationship where we can, in the long run, save money, and what that actually looks like. So I would need all the option numbers updated, and number 3 to actually be, for there to be a study to know what. So I guess if that's the question, then I would say yes, we need to get an update on option number 1 and option number 2, more fleshed out than it is, and then get a feasibility study done on number 3, because if it's going to cost us $20 million in the next 5 years to put it back to a natural habitat, I don't necessarily know if it would be my inclination to do that, but I don't know that right now. And also, like, I don't want to use, similar to kind of what we did at the last agenda item, I don't want to use a 1-year anomaly for a sport that has a national decline to be the investment of a $5 to $7 million long-term development of a space that might not be in vogue in 10 years or in 20 years. So like, when I'm 50, maybe like only 5% of people play golf. Do we need a city that has 2 golf courses? I don't know that we necessarily do, but at the same time, maybe with COVID, everybody's more interested in playing golf. So that's going to start going back up. We just don't know. Now, I recognize, Director Magrino, what you were saying about we have to do something. I actually had gone to the city council in 2017 and 2018, and I did a public comment, and I was like, doesn't matter what you decide to do with the golf course, if you want to like turn it into a mega golf course or if you want to make it natural, but we have to do something about the irrigation system, because I am like an environmentalist and I believe it's our responsibility to be stewards of our land, and we're losing so much water. We're wasting money and we're losing water, and we're going into a drought, and that pipe has a bunch of asbestos in it. So we have to do something regardless. I think it's important to note that there's going to be an unavoidable base cost with changing out that pipe. So I know that number 1 is, minimal maintenance. From kind of what was outlined, it seems like I'm wondering if there's something even more minimal that we can actually do that's really just targeting that singular pipe issue. I'm not an expert, so I don't know. But I do wonder if there's a way that we can specifically target that, because we do need to fix it. But I'm not I am not really comfortable at this time going to city council and being like, yeah, please do option 1, but I am comfortable saying, hey, let's get these numbers updated for 1 and 2 and a feasibility study done for number 3, because either way, we're going to need to change out this pipe for any of the options. So I wonder if there's a way that we can do that.
So I understand everything you said. So what we're here to ask you is what we should study. So if you think it's not worthwhile to study option 2 because upgrading the course is not really something that people are interested in and just doing the minimal repairs to keep golf going, great, we'll study number 1 and we can do a feasibility study for number 3. If you want us to study all 3, we can certainly do that. I think the outreach, that just because we do the study doesn't mean we're making a recommendation of what to do. We're just recommending what to study right now to get the updated information.
Okay, well, then in that case, I think what you just said is perfect. From what I've heard and read from all the golfers who spoke and also sent in messages, there are quite a number. There seemed to be a pretty heavy emphasis on making sure it stays like a municipal community golf course, not putting it on steroids right now. So I would lean towards option number 1 or I would say update the numbers for option number 1 and do a feasibility study for number 3. And I think we can take number 2 kind of out of the picture right now because it's not suitable for the space and what we need that location to be. So that would be my recommendation, I guess, and recommendation to the commissioners as well.
So I would love if we could make a motion and then have the discussion, make a motion, get a second, and then proceed with an actual recommendation that we could bring to council for this.
Okay, do we have a Commissioner Gopal, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I think it's glad, Commissioner Tambe, that's exactly what I was trying to do. So I'll make a motion to update the number for the option 1 and then kick off on a feasibility study for option number 3. That's exactly what I was planning to do it because option 2 is really, really big one. So I would like to go on 10,000, you said approximately, whatever for the first and then whatever it cost on the third. So
as seconded.
Okay, discussion. One question for the director. How long, what would be the time frame to getting these done?
So if we have a decision and a recommendation from you all, we are planning to take it to council in July or August for a study session to get their input and feedback to pursue getting the feasibility study done.
Okay, so it needs to go to council before any money is spent on either one of those 2 things.
Well, because the funding that's associated is a little bit less than what we would need for what you're potentially recommending.
Okay, Commissioner Tambe.
I guess the only additional thing I would like, I think the way we communicate to City Council, as you very well know, Director McGreeny is very critical. So one of the things I do want to make sure they understand is that the numbers are not hard numbers and that there are options, just like we have for all-inclusive playground, we have partnership options. We also have partnership options for number 1, with, potentially with Deep Cliff. We also have partnership options for number 3 with all these other, I took notes on everyone's comments, just FYI, I was really paying attention. And somebody had mentioned, I think Shani had mentioned Prop 84 or Valley Water Restoration or the Water District's mitigation, and they could potentially pay the city to be maintaining it. So I just want that to be presented to the City Council so they don't just look at I thought natural would be cheaper. It's okay, this is a projected value. We don't know. That's why we need to study this. Here are options so that they know it's a possibility. And then in the same vein, also extending that conversation to Deep Cliff and even seeing, hey, maybe it's completely out of the realm of possibility, even to have some kind of partnership with them. Maybe they can pipeline people over to our golf course more or vice versa. And so making sure that conversation is started and see what that looks like. It could be a potential additional form of revenue that would be really good for option number 1, but just getting that kind of started and in front of City Council so they're more open to these updated numbers and the feasibility study, I think would be really, really helpful.
Great.
Okay, we ready to take a vote? Did you get that motion and second, Brittany? Okay, let's vote on it.
Commissioner Begor?
Oh. Can you take your mute off, Sashi, so we can say something? Yes.
Commissioner Tambe?
Aye.
Commissioner Kamarpan?
yes.
Vice Chair Shu?
Yes.
Chair Stanek?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Great. I think that really says it all right there. I mean, we spent an hour on it, but it's good to go through it all and understand it. And hopefully the council will understand where we're going with that.
I just also want to thank Katie Nomura and Jenny Coverman, who have done an immense amount of research on a very complicated topic. And so well done, and thank you for your efforts.
We learned a lot. Yeah, so we have no idea what golf is for me. Like, I learned a lot on this one, so thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, our next agenda item is new business, staff and commission report.
So I have a staff update, director's update. So I will try and run through it as quickly as I can here. Let me get rid of this stuff here. Sorry about this, you guys. Can you all see that? We're good. Yep. Okay. All right, great. So again, just wanted to let you guys know that we're continuing to offer the county is continuing to offer the free COVID testing at the Cupertino Senior Center with appointments on July 7th and August 4th from 9:30 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. Just another reminder, even if you've been vaccinated, getting tested is still an important for the community's general health. More information again, scfreetest.org. And then as well, individuals over the age of 12 are able to get vaccinated or eligible. And that's at scfreevax.org. So I know that we will only be in this yellow tier for a short time here, but just wanted to give you some significant changes that have happened since our previous update. Outdoor gatherings now have a maximum of 100 people. Indoor gatherings are still strongly discouraged, but limited to 50% capacity or 50 people, whichever is fewer. Again, under the yellow tier, prior restrictions on activities have been replaced with the following requirements. All businesses and governmental entities must A, determine the vaccination status of their employees, including contractors and volunteers. B, comply with the mandatory directive on the use of face coverings. C, comply with the health officer's mandatory directive for unvaccinated personnel. And D, continue with promptly reporting COVID-19 cases as explained in the mandatory directive on case reporting. And these are the challenges that we're facing with reopening and such. So on June 15th, the state is expected to move beyond the blueprint for a safer economy. More information can be found at covid19.ca.gov/safereconomy/. The city is working on the logistics of reopening buildings and bringing back programs and events, which includes conforming to the Cal OSHA standards, training part-time staff, and so forth, with many more updates to come, I hope, next month. Again, just showing you our participation numbers, again, off the charts for golf, tennis, and then our free virtual classes continue to be very popular, as well as our fee-based classes and lifetime camps and lessons. And so at the May 18th City Council meeting, there were 3 items for consideration. They included the fiscal year 21-22 community funding review and approval, the fiscal year 21-22 proposed budget study session, and the third quarter budget report. The community funding item was postponed to the June 2nd council meeting, where staff provided a presentation and public comment was received. And the item was continued to the City Council's special meeting on June 4th, tomorrow night. The budget study session item was postponed and will be discussed at City Council meeting tomorrow night as well. And for the third quarter, Parks and Recreation submitted a request for more funds for the lifetime contract at the Sports Center. And all that means is that they did a lot better than we had expected during COVID. So that's good news. Recruitment for the Cupertino Youth Activity Board, known as YAB, is now open. Incoming 8th through 11th graders are invited to apply to become part of the volunteer leadership group that plans events for the youth and teens of Cupertino. YAB members collaborate with the Cupertino Parks and Rec Department to make their visions a reality, cultivate their leadership, time management, teamwork, and active communication skills in the process. Applications are due by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, June 18th, with interviews tentatively scheduled for June 28th. Interested applicants are strongly encouraged to visit the Cupertino Youth Activity Board website for full details in the application. Cupertino Education Discussion, known as SED Talks, will take place on Saturday, June 12th, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., highlighting the theme of Spotlight the Impossible. Registration for this event is required. And then Hack Cupertino event returns for its 5th year and will occur from June 26th to July 3rd. Coders aged 13 to 18 are invited to participate. Participants can register and get more information at cupertino.org/hackcupertino. Just a quick update here that the plumbing work at Jollyman, Wilson, and Portal Park restrooms is complete, and those restrooms have reopened and are available for use. Exciting bathroom talk again for you, Commissioner Tombe.
Yeah.
The community gardens at McClellan Ranch opened on May 17th. Cupertino residents interested in a plot need to submit a community garden application and can apply online at cupertino.org/gardens. As of now, there are still plots available for those interested. And then again, I promised to list our budget, CIP dashboard, and city work program dashboard websites for the public in case they're watching. You can find additional information about our projects and different work program items at these locations. And then next mayor's meeting is scheduled for June 9th with Vice Chair Hsu scheduled to attend. Staff will coordinate with the city manager's office and have them provide commissioners with the Zoom link closer to the meeting date. And that is all.
Cool.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the director? Great. Let me see if there's any questions from our public. Oh, there is one from our panelists. Let's see. Commissioner Tombe.
Oh, it wasn't a question. I was just giving my commission update. Commissioner report.
Oh, okay. But
I think Sasha
Commissioner Rigor.
Got off mute first. So you actually mentioned the community gardens have a few extra plots. So we cleared the whole wait list?
My understanding is that they have gone through the wait list and everyone who
That's
has
fantastic.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, okay. Because there was talk at that time that they were going to be put, so that's awesome. That's very good. Very good. Just wanted a clarification on that.
Is there going to be a ceremony of any kind?
So another update that I didn't provide, but the well-known rec coordinator of Jeff Ordway, who's been before you many times, has taken a job out of state. So he had departed last week, was his last day with the city. And so we are working on transitioning who is managing the gardens. And so we hope to have a ribbon cutting in the near future. But I don't think that it will be at the end of June. I think July is more realistic for us. So hopefully I'll have more information soon about that as well.
Okay, are there July 4th activities coming up?
The city, actually, I realized right before I did the presentation that we didn't announce our Cupertino Cares 4th of July kit that we made available in lieu of activities for the 4th of July this year. And so we offered 700 of those kits and they are actually all accounted for. So they went like hotcakes.
Okay. Commissioner Tombe, you want to?
Yeah, I missed the last time. Looks like I missed this time too. So.
Wonderful. Well, just a big shout out to the director and the department. I know that my mom's a teacher, and so I know that coming back, she had to do that earlier this year, and doing that is a big adjustment. So props to doing that. Did we have a meeting between our first month of May meeting and this? I can't remember. So I thought I had given this update. If I did, I apologize. I literally do not remember. Okay. So one of the things that Mayor Paul had proposed, and this I don't think has been officially approved yet, but was a potential grant to each of the commissions to do something around coming to doing some activities for the city, and kind of getting commissions to be reconnecting with their with the community in ways that is specific to that commission. And so he was looking at $25,000 per commission. That's not gone through the whole process yet, but just know that was proposed, at least when we had this meeting. And so the thing that I had spoken about was neighborhood events to start doing, because we can have, we're headed into yellow tier and that's going to end real fast. And we're going to start to be able to have our neighborhood events program again. And so kind of redirecting funds into that, I think would be great if that happens. Don't know if it will. The bike ped commission.
Just to comment on that, I spoke to Mayor Paul today, and I think he said that those funds were not approved.
No, that's.
So we'll have to find another way to do neighborhood events.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll get back to you, community. So for the Bike Ped Commission, they are looking into scooter and bike and e-bike regulations and what that looks like for the city. As we know, when we did our master plan study, the level of service for Cupertino roads is going to E and F, which is the same as it is in Los Angeles, just to give, by 2025, I think is what they were looking at, based off of the maps that our consultant had put together. So Bike Ped is looking at alternative ways, and that might impact our commission in terms of how we are designing our parks, because we can add, we don't necessarily want things just, they've had problems in a lot of cities of things just like being left around, like bikes or scooters or things like that. So it might be that part of our short-term planning will be to include an extra couple of bike stands or an extra couple of places for people to attach the scooters so that it's in a concentrated area, it looks nice, doesn't get in anyone's way, things like that. Sustainability is doing an induction cooking event, and they just did their Earth Day, or they're doing their Earth Day stuff. Wow, this has been a month. Public safety is going to meet once every other month, and they're also going to be partnering with a domestic violence organization to, kind of build out what a potential partnership might be like, which I think is really cool. According to the sheriff's report, there has been an increase or an uptick in both sexual and domestic violence charges within the area. The Teen Commission is leading a partnership with the Wildfire Awareness Initiative in light of kind of what happened last year and also the drought and the fact that it's going to be more dry brush this year than there even was last year. And then 24 community risk reduction. I don't remember what that note was, so I apologize. And they also made a note that they're paying attention to the large dry load in the mountains. So again, another fire hazard. The TIC Commission the Technology Commission is working on adaptive traffic signaling. So it's not just like physically touching, they'll have other kinds of sensors. I stepped out for this portion because I work for a company that is owned by Verizon. But to update the commission, they are looking at potential multi-tenant poles for 5G. You can speak to the TIC Commission directly about that. And then they're looking at potentially putting in shot spotters, which are gunshot trackers. And yes, that's an additional thing that they're looking at. And then they're also looking at creating trackers for water moisture, noise, pollution, traffic efficiency, tracking bikes and cars crossing intersections, things like that. The Housing Commission is there's been an increase of homelessness in Cupertino, for those folks who aren't aware, and they're going to be working on creating more supply of affordable and lower income housing. And the city had just finished a survey around that, and that only Cupertino residents were allowed to take. And those were kind of the highlights. I also wanted to let y'all know that I will be giving a presentation to the Teen Commission's Hack Cupertino. I'm the in-house venture capitalist for my company. I train founders from around the world. And so I'm actually giving a talk and a presentation around how to build a good startup and how to design a product and how to launch it for the teens. So I'll be doing that either, I think, June or July or early July.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other commissioner updates? Okay, I guess I can report that, as you saw from the director's report, the community grant funding has already been on the council agenda twice, and it's going for the third time tomorrow. And I've been part of each of those meetings. I mean, not I've been available for all of those meetings. Hopefully tomorrow night we will get the final feedback. They need to do that to finalize the budget, so I think that will actually happen, and then we'll be able to report back to you at our next meeting. I think that's it for commission reports. Let's go on to our next item, 5, July and August meetings.
Sure.
So
yes. So traditionally I know that the commission and because Parks and Rec department is so heavily involved in the 4th of July, that there is usually a hiatus at the July meeting for the break of the year. And so what's interesting about this year is, in addition to the fact that we don't have any 4th of July event that we'll be putting on, normally the first week of the month is City Council, Library Commission, Park and Rec Commission in 3 straight days. And so this year that doesn't fall that way because July 1st is on a Thursday. So if we are going to cancel a meeting in the summer, I would propose that we cancel the August meeting. If need be, we could always have a special meeting if we need it. But the proposal this year would be, if you're interested, to cancel the August meeting and not follow the norm.
Vice Chair Shu?
Yeah, I support to cancel the August meeting because I will be out of state at that time. Yeah, so I can be here in July, but not August.
Works for me.
Commissioner Tombe?
If we're going to go forth with the July meeting, I think that's great. It makes sense. I would hesitate to cancel the August meeting without really knowing what's coming up on the docket. We have quite a bunch, a few things, and I don't want to overload our other meetings. I don't necessarily know if we need to cancel the August meeting now. So if possible, I would like to just defer that to July. And if we need to do it then, or if there's nothing we need to talk about, then we can just, forego the meeting. But I don't know that we necessarily need to make that choice right now. I think I would vote to just stick with the July meeting and we can address it then.
Yeah, for myself, in July, as long as it's on the 1st, I can do that. On the 8th, I guess one question is, do we think we'll still be doing Zoom meetings? And how long do we think we'll be doing that?
The jury's still out on that. I think we're going to be doing Zoom, at least for commissions, for the time being until they figure out how the in-person hybrid might work for council, and then they'll roll it out for the other meetings. But for commissions right now, we're going to stick with the Zoom.
Okay, yeah. Since there's a lot going on, I guess, we definitely want to, it sounds like we're all okay for doing the July meeting, and we'll see what's coming up for the August meeting. The reason we would cancel the July meeting was really for staff because they were so busy. And so if we're going to have the July meeting, then, if there's more opportunities for us to move anything forward in August, and I know our agendas get very packed, so missing a meeting can, be tough. So is everyone okay? We'll discuss that in July.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think July we will attend and we can make a call on what we will do for August. Yeah.
Okay. And beyond that, for the July meeting, do we have a view of what will be on the agenda?
Yes, we have the IT presentation on the dual authentication.
Okay, I'm going to say right now it was a good call not to have that tonight.
Well, considering this late hour, I'd have to agree with you. So we are projecting to likely bring back the community funding grant program policy information that we had talked about at the last meeting. So we're hoping to have that information gathered. We are also projecting to come back with the strategic master plan. So the short-term and immediate stuff that is in the master plan. and have what we're already working on and what other things we need to be looking at for consideration in the future. So putting together that document, which is very robust, and we're hoping to have that for the July meeting. We're projecting for that to be for the July meeting. And then we may have an update about the playground equipment replacement. So we're hoping that we get the information from the vendors so that we can present to you what might be going in, as well as our work program for fiscal year 21-22. 21-22. It was adopted on May 26th. So just working through the details, and we'll be updating the dashboard and getting the items up to date for Parks and Recreation. And so that would be the other item, as well as potentially DOLA criteria. So I've not lost track of that. It's right there on the list.
Excellent. I mean, even if it's a first draft, a first pass, and then, use the commission to help fill it in. But if we can get your ideas, that would be awesome. And given what you just said about the July agenda, it's looking like August is going to be something we may be looking at, because that's pretty full. So we'll see.
I had a question on the playground equipment. Will that include the nature play equipment as well?
So I don't have all the details yet. I would really not like to speak out of turn on it. So if we could just hold off, we may not even have that information ready for July, but we're really hoping to.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a July meeting. We will decide about the August meeting, and there's no other business. I will adjourn, and thank you all for hanging in there. Thank you, staff, for all the preparation. This was there were only 2 big items, but they were big items, and we only have one person from the public that's still on the call. But I think it was great, and I remember when Misha would beg people to come and speak at our meetings. So I feel very honored that our citizens came and spoke to us today, and I think it was a good meeting. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good night.